white supremacy. I think that what slavery did for us is it created this sense that the white man's ice is colder and that we want to have a seat at that table and not a seat at our own table.
At LSU, we never had a conversation about the business of sports, about the money that's made. They don't want to have that conversation because you have that conversation, that's what creates movements.
Most people are miserable. They're depressed. They hate their life. Why do people hate their life? Because they're doing things they hate. Because they feel like they're scared they can't pay a bill.
George Soros probably said it the best, and he said that when he was broke, nobody listened to him, but when he broke the banks over in Europe, he was able to start talking to the heads of state.
Are you listening? Is this thing on?
Let me tell you about the record industry. You walk into a major company, they got some of the prettiest women. You want some Perrier, you want some water. What do you need? The ones they got you, they're just like that. What have you done for me lately?
A lot of those athletes in college, 99% of them will not make it to that high level NBA, WNBA, NFL.
If an artist is not a puppet, he's not going to be pulled to the top. It's the bottom line.
Friends is friends and business is business. Never intertwining.
Tonight on the Black Channel, on this 4th of July, we're going to give you a reminder of exactly why we are the black media. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the black media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And because white supremacy never takes a holiday, neither does black empowerment. Living up to a 15-plus year consistent tradition of breaking bread with the brothers and sisters from around the world, while all of the folks out there faking their way to it will be showing up later and trying to convince you as they wipe off the barbecue from their lips. We will not be joining them here because the fight goes on. This is not just the best thing we do, it is the only thing we do until the battle and the war has been won. I want to start off tonight's program here by starting something in particular here. I start off the program by playing the trailer for our latest documentary film project, 8 a.m. And as you know, when I did that, no one had ever done anything like it. No one thought anyone would care. No one thought that anyone would be interested in something like that, because what people had been conditioned to believe was that the only thing that black folk were interested in was tennis shoes and rappers, and that would be all. And they were sorely mistaken. But then again, I want you to understand something. I don't think that that's ever actually been what it is. I think that we have been propagandized to such a massive extent in order to deceive us into believing that we are a people that we actually are not, to the extent that we start talking to ourselves in that manner. So I decided that no, I was not going to listen to the white media or the old black media, and I was going to instead lean on what I know and believe in my people. And as you know, 7 a.m. changed everything, because ever since then, it has been a gradual but consistent and continual change in the national dialogue until now, finally, a decade later, the national conversation for black people is not about integration, education, or politics. It is about economics and entrepreneurship down the line. That now dominates the conversation. It didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't easy. But you also, if you're going to have a media apparatus that's going to be advocating in your favor, that media apparatus has to not only be able to tell you what's going on and what is happening, but also be able to accurately, most importantly, accurately determine where things are going. When I did my film 7 a.m., I spoke about Detroit. When I did my film Gentrified, we went in Detroit. I did all that because I wanted people to see what was happening. Because I saw those as bellwether moments. Detroit had declared, the city declared bankruptcy, and I had accurately predicted that that whole thing was engineered for the purposes of putting into place a white mayor, and that as soon as you have that white mayor there, everybody's then going to declare crisis resolved. Now that we've influenced you to believe that the black mayors can't get anything done and you can't trust them, what you really need in your black city is white leadership. Then we will declare that, oh, the city's in a mess, and they've been telling you this was a mess, everything's hell, everything's awful, everything's terrible, you can't redeem this thing, burn the whole city down, start from scratch. As soon as they elected a white mayor, everything's great. Everything's fine. Crisis resolved. Why, as a matter of fact, if you can just keep things like this for the next 500,000 years, why, everything will be fine. That's what I predicted. Well, folks, as I've always told you, if you're waiting on the white corporate media, cable TV, bowling ball, butterball, Martin, or any of these other folks to be able to call these things accurately and then track them over time to come back and say, hey, check back on this and find out if what I told you was accurate or not, you've got PhDs at universities who cannot give you an accurate analysis of A, what is happening, and B, what will happen. But I have, and I shared this on my community page here earlier today, and this is out of Detroit. And this is a headline that pretty much will shock all of you.
Money. It's becoming big news in the housing market right here in Detroit after more than a year of Atlanta dominating the list of most overvalued housing. Detroit is now at the top of that list. Michael Perner from...
Did you hear that? Let me play that for you one more time. This is from Fox 2 out of Detroit. Fair use, by the way. Fox 2, YouTube, and any other haters out there. Fair use. But this is from Fox 2 in Detroit. You can see the headline, study. Detroit overtakes Atlanta as most overvalued housing market. This was as of 2 days ago. Let me let you hear that again.
Money. It's becoming big news in the housing market right here in Detroit after more than a year of Atlanta dominating the list of most overvalued housing. Detroit is now at the top of that list. Michael Perner.
What? Now, of all the places that you all would think would be at the top of the list of overvalued housing, you might have wrapped your head around Atlanta, but did you think that Detroit was about to overtake them? Of all the cities you can name, Detroit. Because they've given you this image and this impression that was intended to brainwash you. That if black folk are there, it ain't no good. And by the way, do you understand what that means? Detroit, number 1. Atlanta, number 2. two major black enclaves in America with the most overvalued housing. Majority black cities now top the list here for the study that they're talking about. Well, that's not what Fox News and MSNBC and these other folks would have you believe about us, that we got to go move where some non-black people are. And meanwhile, what I'm telling you all is it's a bait and switch. Do you all remember when you were children? They told y'all the terrible things. Yes, I'm going to go there. All the terrible things about Africa. There's war, famine, this, that, and the other. And they certainly had their issues. But the question everybody wanted to ask is, by the way, if that's true, why are y'all white folk flooding over there? If it is so terrible and god awful, by the way, why are you all flooding over there? And you see the same strategy being used over here, where you have a black city or a black enclave. They tell you, oh, it's terrible, it's awful, it's a war zone, it's bankrupt, it's bombed out, it's no good, the economy is non-existent. Forget all that. And y'all need to move. Y'all need to leave. That's what they tell us. The city's no good because you're in it. You need to leave. You need to go. And meanwhile, what are the people sending you these reports and telling you year after year after year that the place is terrible, it's awful, y'all got to get out? By the way, what are they doing? The folks who are telling you this year after year. I want to play this news piece for you, and you're gonna hear some things that sound familiar, like Dan Gilbert, who I covered also for years and years now. My folks who live in Detroit know about that. Those of you who've been listening to me for years know about that as well. But by the way, they're about to go on a list of all the things I named, starting first and foremost with when I got off the freeway and was coming by Joe Louis Arena into downtown Detroit 8 years ago. When I was doing that, a decade ago, and then again 8 years ago, when I did that, I saw that. I was like, wow, it's not congested down here. If you go into downtown Detroit at 4 in the afternoon, it's not wall-to-wall traffic and congested. It's like driving around downtown Shreveport at 4 in the afternoon. You would never know that was the same city. You'd never know that was the city of Detroit. I said the goal was to empty out the black population so that you have all these skyscrapers and everything they're going to convert into luxury condos, and then they're going to have the most valuable thing that rich people could have: plenty of room, plenty of space, and housing. I told you this a decade ago. Contrary, is counterintuitive, but actually the cost of housing and real estate will actually go up. What? As fewer people are in the city, as they empty the city out, housing values will not go down. They will actually go up. Because now you'll only be left with the affluent and the rich, and they will pay top dollar. They'll pay more than you would to have all that room to themselves. Think Park Avenue or Central Park, with those skinny scrapers overlooking Central Park. The most expensive real estate in New York City are those skinny scrapers overlooking Central Park. You would think it would be the opposite, and in reality, it's not. So to have your choice of the prime real estate, they will actually pay multiples more, and that's what you're seeing happen. I want to play this here so you all can hear exactly what they're going to say.
From eXp Realty, Perna team is now at the top of that list. Michael Perna from eXp Realty, Perna team. He is here to talk about that. We talk about overvalue. Yeah. And we were just talking about downtown. And if you've been in Detroit for a minute, which a few of us have, even you guys at home, the values, if you want to live downtown, are so incredible to me.
It's changed
from
so
what
much.
It was 10 years ago when we were in bankruptcy. It's something different. But what does overvalued mean?
So different from where it was 10 years ago when we were in bankruptcy. And to all the internet idiots that folks tend to listen to telling you about how currencies will crash and cities will go bankrupt as if that's the end of the world. Bankruptcy is simply a reset. They desire bankruptcies in many cases because it gives them an emergency that they can use and leverage as their excuse to go ahead and reshuffle the whole board from top to bottom. And those of you who've been following me for a decade, did I call it? Or did I call it?
Damn!
Did it break down and shake out exactly the way I said it would, which was why I did 2 documentaries referencing it? Did it come out exactly the way I said it would? Well, here we are a decade later, and they are reporting that, by the way, Mike Duggan is still the mayor of Detroit. What? He's serving his 3rd term as mayor of Detroit.
And deal with it, nigga.
Only Mayor Coleman Young served 5 terms. He's the only one who served more terms as mayor of Detroit now than Mike Duggan. So the white mayor that they brought back in there, he is now serving his 3rd term as the mayor of Detroit. For those of you who did not know, you don't live in the city or don't follow it. By the way, Mike Duggan's in the middle of his 3rd term. And if you think he intends for this to be his last one, you haven't been paying attention. And I called all of this a decade ago because this is power dynamics. I'm not beholden to a political party. I'm not beholden to a political ideology. I'm not beholden to some big donor somewhere. I created this platform so I could give you the insight and analysis that was in the best interest of my people without having to worry if there was somebody looking over my shoulder telling me you shouldn't tell them that because we got plans in place and here, we'll make you a little deal. We'll make you a little deal that you can use. Just don't go off telling that because that'll stir up trouble. And now a decade later, they are now confirming exactly what I said was going to occur, exactly how I said it was going to occur. Here we are.
It's something different, but what does overvalued mean?
Yeah, and it's so interesting, the amount of money that's being pumped into downtown. So overvalued means it's rising faster than it previously has. So typically, a lot of metro areas will rise 4 to 5 to 8% per year. Michigan, Detroit specifically, property values have gone up over 40% year over year.
Damn!
Did you get that? 40%. Detroit specifically. Looking at the state of Michigan, but Detroit is what's driving that. Detroit specifically, 40%. Do you understand? You can't get rate of return like that on any investment. You can't get that kind of rate of return on any investment. And of all the cities where you thought you would hear that number, did you think Detroit was going to leapfrog everybody? And what I'm telling you is, it's just getting started. It's just getting started. I got footage from downtown Detroit when they were demolishing everything and building the new stadium downtown and stuff and the condos next to it and things. And I talked about this then. I'm like, oh, they're just renovating downtown altogether. And folks who don't live there don't know it. But they're just renovating this whole damn thing all together. And I'm like, when they get done, this will be another playground for the white and rich or the white and affluent.
Wow. In Corktown, 100% value. In Detroit specifically, property values have gone up over 40% year over year. Wow. In Corktown, 100% value increase right by Michigan Central Station, which just reopened.
Now, did you get that? And in the Corktown area, by Central Station, he said that theirs have gone up by 100%. So they basically doubled in one calendar year, or at least as far as their study is concerned. Now, you think about that for a few moments while they were telling you that the city was done, the city was through, the city is bankrupt, it's a slum, it's a war zone, it's Mad Max, and the best thing that you as black people could do for Detroit is leave. As a matter of fact, all us white folk, we can't wait to get out of here. That's what they told you. And then a lot of black folk did go for the bait. And the folks who told you it's time for you to leave, they sat there and stuck around, and I'll be damned. Now they're like, oh, by the way, now we're going to skyrocket the values. And that will create an economic barrier so that those of you who left cannot return. And those of you still here will be progressively priced out, which is exactly what I said would happen.
to 8% per year. Michigan, Detroit specifically, property values have gone up over 40% year over year.
Wow.
In Corktown, 100% value increase right by Michigan Central Station, which just reopened, which looks gorgeous, by the way.
Are things popping downtown? I mean, are people, you go down there and you see people walking around.
By Central Station, which looks gorgeous, by the way. I'm very glad you said that. Why is it you couldn't have had that before Mike Duggan? What was the holdup? Why wasn't that a viable option then? You all know why it wasn't.
Gorgeous, by the way.
Are things popping downtown? I mean, are people, you go down there and you see people walking around, but other neighborhoods are changing as well.
Yes.
When people come, and there used to be so many investors coming, what does that mean for someone coming into the market to say, I want to buy Corktown, I want to buy Jeff Chalmers, I want to buy Indian Village,
Boston Edison,
all the places where people are like, oh, maybe things are happening. What do you say to them?
Well, what I'm telling my buyers right now that are looking at Detroit, buy now, because home values are going to continue to rise at an unprecedented rate.
Folks, this is not Jason Black saying this. This is not me sitting in Louisiana. This is your local television station in Detroit. This is one of your local real estate people in Detroit saying, well, what I'm telling my buyers is buy now because it's only going up from here. I said this a decade ago. I warned of this a decade ago. Now they're bearing out every syllable I said.
Well, what I'm telling my buyers right now that are looking at Detroit, buy now, because home values are going to continue to rise at an unprecedented rate for the foreseeable future, next 3 or 4 years at the minimum. I mean, between the Guardian Building, Michigan Central, all the money that Dan Gilbert's put in, the Illich family has put in, Little Caesars Arena.
Oh, look at that. Dan Gilbert and the Illiches. Yeah, there you go. Quicken Loans and the Little Caesars people. You thought they were all about pizza, and they've been taking over downtown Detroit. And at this point, their conquest is complete. I got to call it for what it is. Their conquest of downtown Detroit is complete. I mean, you already had Comerica Field down there and whatnot. And for those of you who are in Detroit, you got to understand what your city looks like to an outsider, somebody who doesn't live there. So when I'm coming off the damn freeway and I'm coming up Central or Main and I'm going by the General Motors buildings and you make that little detour through Greektown, then you swing on around the way and get over there by Comerica, it was so obvious what was happening. When you swing around Comerica, that was so obvious what was happening over there. It was so obvious that that was going to be an anchor that would tell you what the future was going to be. It was somebody who does not live in your city. I want y'all to know, me just showing up there for the first time, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. Oh, this is a beachhead that just gives them a proof of concept. The whole rest of this city got to go now. The whole rest of downtown got to go. So that was why I was able to call it then. Even somebody who just showed up there with fresh eyes, I'm like, oh, there's no way they leave the rest of this down here. This thing here is too damn big. You wouldn't have done it for no reason. Let me let y'all hear him say that again.
I mean, between the Guardian Building, Michigan Central, all the money that Dan Gilbert's put in, the Illich family has put in, Little Caesars Arena, plus we've got all the number ones are stacking up with the city. We're a national presence now, right? People came in, 775,000 people came in for the draft, and people that I talked to were shocked at how far the city had come from just 10 years ago, from bankruptcy to now, and those wins are going to continue. They really are. So I think Detroit itself is a great investment, specifically downtown, specifically some of those other neighborhoods like Palmer or Boston Edison or University District, faculty community. They're amazing places to be today. And they.
Oh, let me show y'all something right there. I want you to see this right quick. I want you to see this.
University District, faculty community.
All right, take a look right down here. You see where my arrow is? Take a look at that right down there.
They're amazing places.
Did you see that?
University.
Showing you the traffic in downtown Detroit. I want you to see what the traffic looks like in downtown Detroit, middle of the day.
District, faculty community.
You can see what that looks like in downtown Detroit, middle of the day. Yeah, now that they've cleared you out, and got all the room they need, they ain't trying to redo what they did in New York and sit up here and be choked. No, if they paid all this money, they want to be able to walk from one place to another, stress-free, no congestion, no overcrowding, no people they don't want to see. everything they can breathe now. None of that nonsense they have to tolerate in New York, in downtown New York and downtown Los Angeles. None of that silliness. So I wanted you all to see what, quote, traffic looks like in downtown Detroit in the middle of the day. And my folks in Detroit will bear me witness. Yeah, that's what the traffic is like. It ain't choked. Not anymore. Now, don't get me wrong. Every once in a while on the freeway, it might get a little thick. Every once in a while on the freeway going by downtown. But as far as the place itself, nope. Nothing like what you're accustomed to in Dallas, New York, Los Angeles. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. And the values are higher than they've ever been. With this man telling you no end in sight.
They're amazing places to be today, and they weren't 10 years ago.
I agree. Let's talk about this. We had somebody from the land bank in, and they were saying started off with over 100,000 properties. Now they're down to, I think it was 60,000 was the number, and a lot of those are lots.
A lot of them are just
those
vacant
are
lots.
lots.
Yeah.
Are there still deals to be had in the city of?
There are, and especially right now, and especially as economically it's starting to expand out of downtown, we're going to see a lot of those lots picked up and then developed, and actually spot bills being put on them. So a lot of those homes had to be
said
scraped.
spot bill, what does that mean?
Yep. So like a build where it's just one single home, not like a whole development or community.
I see.
Yep. A lot of that happens. It has been happening in like Royal Oak or Birmingham, where they take a house down and put one up.
Right.
In Detroit, a lot of those lots were scraped. The buildings and the houses were taken off them because, frankly, they were just condemned.
Right.
They were unsafe to be in. So the city came in and took thousands of homes out. We're going to start seeing those homes come back in.
What?
Did you hear that? I want y'all to understand what I called. It's coming down exactly the way I said it. He's saying, oh, we're just clearing this. We're tearing down the old structures where you niggas is. Tearing down the old structure, clearing the slab, and building something on it again. Now that we have successfully moved you out of the way, all of a sudden there's practically unlimited investment into it now. Well, now that we've run you off, all those houses and so-called urban blight that had been there for decades and nobody can do anything about it, and there's nothing you can do, and there's no money, and government just moves slow and stupid, and look at Flint, Michigan, we can't get anything done. And as soon as we could move you out the way, all of a sudden they moved in with lightning speed. All this stuff they told you would be too expensive to do. You can't just tear down a bunch of houses and rebuild them. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, no, we sure can. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. That's we just told you that. Yeah, we sure can. We sure can. We can just tear it down, and the old slab, all we need is the old slab, and we'll build a new house. There we go. There we are. Yeah, we just told you that, so you go ahead and leave. Now that you've left, all of a sudden the money comes in quick, fast, and heavy, and you've been gone for a few years and do not recognize the city you're in. Let me play that again for those of you who don't understand how real estate development works.
Oh, I see.
Yep, a lot of that happens. It has been happening in like Royal Oak or Birmingham, where they take a house down and put one up. One single home, not like a whole development or community.
I see.
Yep, a lot of that happens. It has been happening in like Royal Oak or Birmingham, where they take a house down and put one up.
Right.
In Detroit, a lot of those lots were scraped. The buildings and the houses were taken off them because, frankly, they were just condemned.
Right.
They were unsafe to be in. So the city came in and took thousands of homes out. We're going to start seeing those homes come back in.
Talk about nationally, the real estate market, they say, is hurting. Interest rates are hurting buyers.
Yes.
What's happening here?
There is the lowest amount. It's the lowest affordability for buyers nationally and here in Michigan that we've seen in the past almost 30 years because of that rapid rate increase, right?
Yeah.
You know, Jerome Powell is definitely a trendsetter with saying, I want to break the back of inflation. I'm going to use interest rates to do it, and that has really hurt the real estate market. I was just talking to a friend the other day where I had advised her to go buy a property 3 years ago. That would have cost her $280, would have been a payment of around $1,600.
Oh, yeah.
Today, that same property is going for $425, and that payment is $3,350.
Wow. What? Alrighty then.
So in other words, yeah, when we make this change here, we all flooded in, and those of you who are just now noticing what we did, there is now an economic barrier that will ensure that most of you will not be able to come back now. Now that we've done that, now that we got you out the way, we're going to jack these prices up, and this will ensure that those of you who left, most of you will never come back, and a lot of you who are there, you're about to get priced out. Because remember, if the property values are going up, so will the property taxes, which is, of course, their goal. Understand that. No, they've not been doing this except the last decade. You have not seen anything remotely like this. As a matter of fact, values were all going down. So no, they have not been doing this for decades. Values were going down until 10 years ago. Then they said, okay, as soon as you elect a white mayor, now we're going to get real serious with the investment. All the permits can go through. We can go ahead and all the plans, but they're only going to be big plans for big stadiums and big buildings. And we're going to redo traffic patterns. And I only have one question to ask you all right now. Somebody explain to me, when all of this has been going on now for the last decade, will you please explain to me, where in the world has Bowling Ball Martin and the rest of the old dead black media been all this time? The so-called highfalutin HBCU Negroes, where the hell have they been the last decade and a half when I have been beating the drum, blowing the horn, and sounding the alarm? Where have they been? Where were they? Hell, where are they now? Black Enterprise Magazine, where are they? Where have they been for the last 15 years while I've been out here solo sounding the alarm for a decade and a half? Where's Black Enterprise been? Where's Ebony? Where's Jet? Where's BET? Where's TV One? Where are they? Where were they? And where are they now? Now, if little old me, if I've been on the case now all this time, making documentaries at my own expense, all this time, if I saw this, then where the hell have they been? And remember, these are places I don't even live. I've only been to Detroit 5 or 6 times. That's not a place I go every year. I've only been 5 or 6 times in my entire life. Where's your so-called black media personalities and your black radio stations in Detroit? Where the hell they at? It's not enough to be sitting up whining and pitching and moaning about it. By the way, do they have the correct answers? Did they tell you all this? Because you see, it took me taking a drive through Detroit till I got to Grosse Pointe. I got out there to Grosse Pointe and I said, oh, this is what the deal is. They got the old money secluded out there. They got Detroit over downtown over here. And they just gonna squeeze them two together till you're gone. They're gonna squeeze it together till you're gone. Well, Jason, they can't do that. No, they can't do it overnight. These are plans that will take decades, not months, not years. But take a look at what they've done in Detroit in just one decade. In just 10 years, you can already see this isn't even gentrification anymore, folks. That term is obsolete here. This is not gentrification. This is just wholesale takeover. they're no longer satisfied with just having a few desirable places. Oh, they want to spread that out everywhere, and they want to make it so incredibly cost prohibitive they will not have to tell you no niggas allowed. When they sit up here and tell you that the price for that property went from $1,200 to $3,300, oh, you gone. You gone. You gone. Where's your local media been? Where are your local personalities? Where are your national personalities? Where have they been? Where have they been to speak on this? Where have they been to talk on this? Where have they been to warn you? I'm just one guy, and I've done a hell of a whole lot more in the last decade to sound the alarm and have this national discussion and conversation than anybody else. And which is why my documentary work continues to this day. Folks, we're in the last 5 days for 8 a.m. I don't know what else to tell you. Nobody else is doing this. National Public Radio isn't doing this. The old dead black media is with the white media and pretending that none of this is happening. I'm sitting here looking at your so-called historic major black enclaves in America. Do you realize they're under attack? Do you realize that in some of these places, I have to update the files? I'm not one of these people who makes a slogan and then comes back decade after decade. I told you California was on its way. I'm like, oh, California's gone. Florida was on its way, and Florida's really pretty much gone. Colorado was on its way, and Colorado's pretty much gone. And soon, Harlem, New York, pretty much gone. And Detroit, the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall. So I've been on the case, and all I'm telling you here is that these other folks, I'm doing the work that they simply don't do. They don't do this because it's considered to be unsexy and dry, and furthermore, they just want you all to be happy little consumers. Even if you're paying the highest damn interest rates in the universe, the job is to make sure that you are happy little consumers. So nobody wants you to discuss the X's and O's and the pure economics about this. Nobody wants you to do that. They want you to talk about other things. And then they don't put it in its proper context. When I did my films and I talked about these places and these cities and whatnot, there was a reason why I specifically went down there and went to Grosse Pointe, because I wanted that to resonate with my people in Detroit, something they could actually see. That, hey, he's actually gotten on the ground, boots on the ground. He's actually been to the spot and seen exactly what it is. That was what I wanted to show you. These other folks showing up for Damn Me Essence Festival. Where you at, you big fat bastard? Showing up for Damn Me Essence Fest because everything's a damn party. And I'm standing there in the middle of downtown Detroit with the Flint water crisis going on, and I'm saying, hey, this is not going to go well. I can see what's happening here. If it takes you 2 years to build a stadium, and if you're going to build 2 of them, well, there goes half a decade right there. And then the amenities around it, and they want to put in that subway line or whatever, the train through there. I'm like, man, look here. This is going to fundamentally transform this place. And they're not doing this for the native black population. That was my whole point. And nobody was saying this. No one was talking about this. And I keep reiterating, I'm only one person because, folks, in my documentary films, I usually give myself about 2 hours to make a movie. It has a runtime about 2 hours. Truth be told, they could be a mini series that just comes back every week. Yeah, but that's not something that's really practical for me to do at this time. And what I'm saying is my job is to help kickstart a conversation. It's your job to use this as a tool, pick up that conversation where you live. If you're in Detroit, Jason's job is not to sit up here and talk about every single block and every single neighborhood and every single useless politician. My job is to help put a spotlight on this so that you locally can pick it up and go from there. That's the way you're supposed to use that, because you don't have a local media doing that. So you got to pick up that ball and run with it. If you're in Detroit, folks got to know what's going on. I can sit up here and put something on that. I can put something on it, but that's it. That's it. That's important. Your old black media doesn't talk like that for a reason. They don't talk like that for a reason. And the reason for that is because they want things to stay the way that they are, and they will sit up here and entertain you. And when it's time for us to talk about something serious, folks start talking about dancing the damn Dougie. They start talking about dancing the damn Dougie. And that's fun to them. They don't have an issue with that. I sit up here and say, hey, by the way, did you clock what happened here? Now, some folks will ask about Kwame Kilpatrick. Some folks ask about him. Well, my only statement in that regard would be, this is the price you pay when you don't insist on black excellence. When you let the old niggas run things. See, old niggas like having their little shindigs and folks dressing up and being entertaining. See, that's the reason why. Understand something. You and me didn't put Kwame Kilpatrick in office. The old niggas did. We didn't select Kwame Kilpatrick. The old niggas did. They like seeing that mess. They like seeing some nigga sitting up here doing his impersonation of a pimp. More concerned with whining and dining the ladies than actually leading anything of substance. They like that. They think that politics is supposed to be a damn show. It's supposed to be a fashion show. These other folks are concerned about power, wealth, and influence, but the old niggas are concerned about attention. They're concerned about being seen. They're concerned about being acknowledged. Take a look at my degree. Take a look at my useless ass son over here, just one race for mayor. Who gives a damn if he's not doing anything with it? So you have some folks who want to get things done, and then you'll have a useless jackass like him, and then next thing you know, he cancels out the people who want to get something done. Because you see, he's looking to get individual benefits for himself. But Kwame had the misfortune of becoming mayor at a time of transition, when they were no longer interested in Negro puppets anymore. They now were looking to close in for the kill. And the deals they wanted to make could not be done. They wouldn't trust some Negro sitting there doing it. You got to get all the way out the way if we gonna make these deals with the Ilyiches and the Gilberts and the rest of their ilk. You got to go. And sure enough, they made sure he was gone. I mean, the punishment was so severely outweighed the crime. They wanted to make sure when he was gone, he wouldn't be back. You ain't gonna be back. They know what they're doing. So if you want to know how it ended up where it is, understand the old niggas didn't have a plan except, well, get somebody black in office and then that's all we need to do. See, that's why they don't like talking to us, because we have a plan. They don't like talking to us because we actually have a plan, and we're interested in empowerment. Let me explain to you what the problem is. And I got to go back a little bit here in their video here. Got to go back a little bit because if you take a look at it and see what the issue really was, when they sit up there and start talking to you, they want you to know, hey, this is what it's about for them. You see the General Motors buildings. At least it's General Motors buildings for now. I think the GM is selling them. That on your screen is the quintessential essence of what went wrong with the civil rights generation. On your screen right there. And now you're seeing as the events have played out exactly the way I said it would. They wanted a job. They wanted a job. That's what they wanted. They wanted a job. So they just wanted to get a job. Give me some benefits so I can pay for some of the bastard kids I'm out here making and getting drunk for. That's what they want. That's what they were after. And they sat there for decades and didn't do a damn thing except be the happy little grinning ass Sambo cog in the machine. And they sat there forever. And they were sitting there forever smiling because they had finally gotten what they wanted. Folks, you're going to have to accept the brutal reality of this, which is why I have tried to tell you, you're going to have to accept the reality of it. And the reality of it is James Clyburn is indicative of his generation. When he said all they want is a little bit for future here, something for my kids, you know, you be able to sit up under the tree and drink some sweet Lucy and, you know, just have a place here to pick my corns. He meant that. That's his generation. They're not power brokers. They're not interested in building for the future. They never were. And that's the reality that you're going to have to accept. They were not trying to build anything. That's why you're all looking back at them and saying, hey, oh, nigga, what did you build? And they're looking at you crazy. I'm not here to build nothing. I'm not here to build anything. I'm just here to get up in the morning, go to work. Because, you see, my goal is to be a non-threatening nigga. You young folk are problematic because you saying things that make you a threat. You're saying things that threaten the established order, and the civil rights generation had no spine. So when you start talking this talk that is going to upset the established order, they're going to jump up and start, they're not going to say white supremacy is the problem. They're going to say you're the problem. They just wanted a job at the plant. They just wanted a job at Delco. They just wanted a job at Motorcraft. They just wanted a job at Chrysler. That was all they wanted. They wanted to be able to tell their friends that they worked at the plant. They wanted to be able to tell their friends that she's the head of HR down at the General Motors building. When they show up on Sunday so they can sit there and stunt in front of each other, and never mind the fact that you're the poorest people in the city. I guess relative to each other, you got something to brag about. But as far as the rest of the population, it's pathetic. But that was all they wanted. They wanted to have the ability, and let me be very, very clear. As you all know, I've been down there on the Riverwalk. It's very nice looking over into Canada. You know, you see Caesar's Palace and all that. Goodwill Bridge and all that. The view over the Detroit River, let me tell y'all, it ain't nothing but Negroes out there on their water skis. A bunch of old niggas on water skis out there on the Detroit River. What? I'm telling the damn truth, and yeah, you damn right I'm yelling it because ain't nobody else telling it in had a decade and a half. That's why I took video of it. My folks who live in Detroit, you know damn well I'm telling the truth. Out there on the Detroit River, any evening, but especially on the weekends and Sunday, it's a bunch of old niggas sitting out there on the damn river on their boats and their jet skis. Y'all know I'm telling the damn truth. I got it on video. That's what they go down there and do. They got speakers on they damn things. This nigga's trying to bump music in the middle of the damn Detroit River. Notice me with my raggedy ass Yamaha. Notice me. Yeah, if you were down there on the Riverwalk, you seen it. If you were down there today, you saw it. But then again, that's the way it's always been. Yeah, that's why they ain't got time to pass any property down to you. They don't have the resources to upkeep the property. They trying to figure out how to get on the damn river and finally get some attention. Meanwhile, the people who own and run that city, the folks who are taking over, they don't want to be seen by anybody. Dan Gilbert isn't out on the Detroit River with his yacht trying to be seen by anyone. Damn! Did y'all get that? The power brokers in Detroit, the folks who are taking over the city, who have taken it over, the folks who are gobbling up all the real estate and will define the future. By the way, they're not playing any loud music. They're not breaking out the jet skis. They're not selling their yacht. You can't even find they asses. You can't find them and they won't let you. Now let me go a little bit further. Way back up there at Grosse Pointe, oh Detroit, I got to read the mail tonight. Now for those of you who are not from Detroit, you can look it up on the map. Grosse Pointe is where the old money is. Grosse Pointe is an area out there. It looks like a little small town when you drive up the street. But if you make a right or left anywhere, really if you make a right, because you make a left, you're heading back towards Detroit. But if you make a right, you go back where all them big ass houses are. And that's, the second you drive back there, you see them big ass lawns, those big palatial estates. That's old money. And I'm not talking about 20 years old. I'm talking about 50 or 100 years old. That's old money. Back up in there. We talking about folk who's so damn old, they got to have landscaping companies to mow the front lawn. It's old money. You know when you are in the part of a place or a city where these are the folks who run things. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Nobody was outside in those areas. What? No one was outside there. The folks were out there on Main Street where the post office and the dry cleaners were, but when you drive up back there in them neighborhoods, nobody was out. Lawns perfectly manicured, streets perfectly clean, but wasn't nobody outside. You know you in old money territory when you got big houses, big lawns, big trees, big cars, clean streets, and no people to be seen. See, the problem with the old niggas is they want to be seen. First, you don't have to ask what they got in mind because they'll tell you. Straight up one side and down the other, they're going to let you know everything they're trying to do. But the real power brokers, they don't want to be seen at all. Either because they're so old, they don't really go outside because nothing impresses them anymore, or because it's not necessary. He can change the damn city making a phone call. Do y'all understand that? Let me explain to you how this works and how you got in this situation here. Let me explain to you exactly how this works. See, folks, here's what you can do when you're set up like Dan Gilbert and the Ilyaches, or them folks back there in Grosse Pointe. Here's the way you do it. What you do is you contact either an architect or a commercial real estate broker. You get together with them. You say, this is what we want to do. I'm talking about you just pick up the phone. You ain't going nowhere. You pick up the phone. You call a commercial real estate broker. You tell them this piece of property down here we want to get. find out who owns it, make him an offer, get with my general contractor, we're going to pull the permits. So you make a phone call to the commercial real estate broker. He makes a phone call to the general contractor. They're going to do a survey. Then you hang up the phone with the commercial real estate broker who hung up the phone with the general contractor. Now the one of you left the room you were in. Now you're going to pick up the phone and go call your banker. I need to get $50 million. Got a project we getting together on. I got to get 50 mil. The banker never leaves his room at his house. You ain't never left your room at yours. You call your bank, have them wire over the money. If it's not the same bank, if it's the same bank, you just tell them, yeah, get that out of my account. Yeah, we'll get that. I'm putting up 50 million and y'all gonna loan me 250 million. I'm putting up 50. Y'all gonna make me a loan for 250. We're gonna buy up 50 acres downtown, prime real estate, clear all that out. Let's go ahead and get started on this. Let's go ahead and get started on this development. Never left your house. Never left the room. Hundreds of millions of dollars in transit, about to change your lives, and the people doing it never even walked out of their home. They're sitting in front of their computer, they're sitting at the telephone, never left their room, and have already started the gears in motion. And at no point will they ever have to leave. Now, of course, they may eventually go downtown and go place eyes on it if they need to, but just understand that's the way that works. The survey people go out. They're the only ones who have to actually go out. They go out and go survey it. You go back to the man, tell him, okay, this is what the survey is. Here's where the property lines are. This is how much it's going to cost to get this. This is how much I'm going to need to start remediating it here. Here's where the utilities are through here. Some of these we can move, some of them we can't. Here's how this got to work with that. Here's how much it's going to be to pull them permits. We're going to have to pull all the permits. Here's about the timeline we're looking at to get all this developed. Once we get that done, so we're looking at about 2-3 year window. And you never have to leave your home. You did all of that in Grosse Pointe, sitting in your bedroom by the phone. All these people you've known for decades. You know real estate brokers, you know commercial brokers, you know lenders, you know bankers, you know lawyers, you know general contractors, you know survey companies. You know all that. You've been dealing with them for years or decades. You simply make 3 or 4 phone calls, and that's how this gets done without you ever having to leave your home. Now, the black folk who got to go to work are sitting up here like, damn, how'd that happen? And meanwhile, you never even had to leave. Right there in Grosse Pointe. For the folks who live in Detroit, you know that is just that's just one scenario of many. I just gave you one scenario of many. You got projects like that all over Detroit, all over Greektown, all over the waterfront. And the folks who pulling the strings, you've never seen them and never met them, and they go to great pains to make sure that they never encounter you. But the old niggas are sitting at the plant dealing with their inferiority complexes. Now they've gotten so old and rickety they can't do that anymore. And all they are is a broke down old nigga with a jet ski or a little old lady hat and a 79 Fleetwood Brougham. And you're sitting here trying to fight this tsunami of white wealth that has now moved in for the kill. Now they've moved in for the kill, and you're disarmed. You don't have nothing to fight them with, even if you did. Let me go ahead and say one more thing here. For those of you who are not in the Michigan area, for those of you who are like me, you're from the southern United States, and you've never actually lived up north, particularly in that Midwest region and whatnot, it's still daylight for them. What? No, I'm serious. Up there, man, it's still twilight until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. It's real weird. For those of us from the southern United States, it's real weird to be those people. Like for us, the sun goes down at this time of year, the sun goes down about 8:30. Up there in that Detroit area, it stays twilight till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's real weird. It's strange. Never saw anything like that in my life. It's real strange. No, I'm serious. For folks up there, not no 9:30. It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And it's still twilight. It's bizarre. The sun may have gone over the horizon, but everything's still lit up. It's real bizarre. And I've seen it. I've seen it several times. I'm like, okay, this is just weird. And what I'm telling you is, do you know take a look at the picture on your screen right now. Do you know what somebody would pay for to have a view like that in their summer condo or their summer luxury loft in Michigan, where it doesn't get brutally hot like it does in the southern United States and even places like Florida? They don't have that problem in Michigan like that. You can be downtown in Michigan, spring and summer. When it starts getting cold, all right, we out. Think about that for a few moments. You have so many of the amenities and stuff that you'd be accustomed to in New York or Chicago with none of the congestion, none of the undesirables. How much would that be worth to you? Think about that for a few moments. How much would that be worth? Oh, in the chat room, your apps for folks from the South or from the West Coast, if you've never been to the Great Lakes, it is some of the most beautiful country you could ever see. I'm talking about, folks don't know. If you're not from that area, you don't know about it. But y'all, that is a hell of a popular region for folks to visit. Hella popular for tourism. The Great Lakes region, they have a number of different enclaves up there that I'm talking about. People will kill you over. And I mean literally. RVs, campers. It is some of the most desirable, in-demand real estate you could imagine. Not New York, not Los Angeles, not Florida. The Great Lakes. Now, I wouldn't want to be there in the wintertime, but then again, there are people who do want to be there in the wintertime, by the way. By the way, there are people who want to be there in the wintertime. Let me go ahead and tell you, folks from the southern United States, we have a phobia of the cold, but I've traveled enough that I've actually started to understand, didn't say I want to sit with them, but I understand why they would want that. When it snows up there, it is absolutely breathtaking. Not in the city where you got to slick around on the damn streets, but in the areas they got the trees and around the Great Lakes and stuff, and if it freezes, I mean, it's beautiful. It's covered in snow. It's all white everywhere. You can't just get that anywhere. So it's absolutely gorgeous. It really is. It really is. And you don't think that area up there would have something like that, or you don't think about how popular that actually is. That is tremendously popular. Folks, that's why they don't say nothing to nobody. What? Folks, for those of you who live there in Michigan, by the way, usually you have people doing like circulars and advertisements around the country saying, hey, come visit us up here. They don't do that with the Great Lakes. There's nobody advertising to the other 49 states about the Great Lakes region. For those of you in Michigan, did you know that? They don't advertise. They advertise Dallas, they advertise Florida, they advertise all these other places. Ain't nobody advertising the Great Lakes outside of y'all's region. They don't want a bunch of folk knowing. They're like, hey, it's too many niggas know now. They trying to keep that as under wraps as they can. They're like, man, We good like we are. That's how you know you got something hella valuable, when you don't even need to advertise, hey, come see us. They're like, hey, build a bigger wall. You think it was acceptable for them to sell out your birthright? You think it was acceptable to sell out your birthright? You want to talk about people who got their heads on wrong? I'm not going to go too far deep into this because I want to deal with this on the weekend, but old Bowling Ball Martin is still keeping the faith. Bowling Ball Martin is still keeping the faith and telling all of us here that we need to understand where we're wrong at, and that the real issue is not Joe Biden. And I think that this really encapsulates the problem wonderfully here. It really, really does. Now, you know, we've been talking about this, and you know, we've been zeroed in on this like a laser beam. I want to show you something. Take a look on your screen. This is Bowling Ball Martin on his YouTube page. And you can see the video over here on the right-hand side of the screen. Very clearly and very plainly, Roland Martin wants you all to know, shut the hell up. This is his strategy for talking to black folk here is, by the way, shut up and do as I say. I want you to hear what the video says, and by the way, fair use, butterball. Fair use. Like it or lump it.
3 surprising reasons.
Democrats, shut the hell up, get your asses in line, and focus on winning.
That's his response to Joe Biden losing his mind during the debate. That's his response. He's got a video, and he's literally telling you, shut the hell up and just go vote.
Democrats, shut the hell up, get your asses in line, and focus on winning.
Absolutely, and back up and surround and support and block for and defend your candidate.
This is them. This is the old black media. This is their strategy. This is their wisdom at work. You thought they were going to back down from this? Hell no. They don't even have a damn clue. They don't give a damn if the candidate is incapacitated, incoherent, or incorrect. Shut up and vote. Now, they can't be saying that from a logical perspective. We just sat here and established that the candidate may not even have a mind anymore. What the hell are you supporting? What are you supporting? Shut the hell up and vote. Vote for what? What are you supporting?
This is what I was just saying. This reminds me during the 2020 presidential campaign, and you had one of the debates. You had 12 people for the Democrats, 12 people on stage, and they were attacking policies from the Obama-Biden administration, acting like they were Republicans. Oh, what the hell are you doing?
Trying to save themselves because the ship is sinking, and since Michael is not running for office, it's real easy for him to tell them what they need to do. He's not up for election nor re-election.
But the other thing, when we look at Joe Biden's history, Joe Biden really has never been a good debater, but he's good at retail politics.
That's nonsense. Joe Biden's been an excellent debater. 3 strikes.
Okay, Joe Biden there in Raleigh, North Carolina, that's the Joe Biden retail politics. He needs to do a lot more of that. Okay, do 2 of those, do at least 2 of those a week, especially during the summer. And I would say the next debate is September 10th. The day before that debate, he needs to do one of those rallies also and feed off that energy, allow that momentum to take him into the debate.
The man is 81 years old. This nigga talking about feed off the energy. How many 81-year-olds can feed off energy? They got to go take a nap after they eat. He's acting like he's talking about a 21-year-old, not an 81-year-old. Are you listening to me?
But goddamn, do you want to win or do you want to lose? What is it?
That's these old black media niggas. Then they start yelling and cursing at you. Shut the hell up. Get your ass in line. Then they start, this tells you what Roland Martin's audience is about and how they regard black people. That gives you a perfect insight. Everybody who shows up there becomes a part of that ridiculous little cult.
Goddamn, do you want to win or do you want to lose? What is it that you're doing? Let me know so I know what to do. Time to get it.
Let me know so I know what to do. Tell me what to do so I know what to do. So I'm going to go more in depth on this later. I'm not going to go into depth on this tonight. I did want you all to know that, yeah, we've been keeping an eye on the old black media. And if you thought they found a new trick, or if you thought that they found religion, or if you thought that they've changed their tune, hell no. They are every bit as butt kissing and butt dancing as they ever were. As a matter of fact, they're not doubling down. They're just pitching camp. They're not leaving nothing alone. And this is why you can't get the truth out of them. Folks, how are we ever going to have an honest conversation about what really needs to be done in Detroit with the old black media telling you it doesn't matter what the Democrats are doing or are not doing for you. It doesn't matter what they're succeeding at or failing at. Your job is to shut up and vote. Doesn't matter whether they do a good job. Doesn't matter whether they do a bad job. Doesn't matter whether they tell you screw off. Your function is to get up and vote. So Roland can keep his 1986 Volkswagen Beetle on the road. And Michael Imhotep can pay the rent. That's their goal. To deliver the black vote. That's their goal. That's all they're interested in. They're not thinking about anything else except what they are getting, and now you have the proof of it that these are the things that they are getting. In the chat room there, Mr. Tipton, I'm very glad you asked that question. Why don't you go ahead and give us a phone call? Let's go ahead. Very glad you asked that question. Why don't we just go ahead and open up the telephone lines for you? So, Mr. Tipton, you had a question there. I'll be glad to address that for you. The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence. Never taking a holiday. Never taking a day off. And we are here to address all of your questions, comments, concerns regarding the issues that we are discussing here tonight. So, very glad Mr. Tipton has asked that question here. He needs to go ahead and give us a call so that we can get an answer to that, because of course he wouldn't want anyone to think that he's trolling. So glad you went ahead and gave us a call. While we're waiting on that, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo, 11FBA11, settle for nothing now and settle for nothing later. Very, very well said. Appreciate that. Dim Sum HQ, thank you very much for your support in the Super Chat. We got new members tonight here with Black Ronin and everybody else here who's joined to become members of the program. Thank you very much. That Black to Death was giving out memberships. Never a bad time to have a gift like that. Never a bad time at all. CJ, thank you here. Although CJ might be a return. The phone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. By the way, we have 5 days left on the crowdfunding for 8 a.m. We got here because this is what we do all day, every day, all the time, every time, while everybody else just drops in every once in a while and still does not discuss this because this is hard to talk about this. See, folks, when you get off into saying, by the way, this is what black folk need to have, ultimately what it comes down to is saying, okay, we would like to develop downtown Detroit. We would like to develop the suburbs. We would like to develop around Central Station. Hell, we'd like to build Central Station. We can probably do it better than the white folk you brought in for it, because most likely they've been brought in with a bad agenda. If this is a black city, we should be in charge of doing that because we know how best to serve our people. And of course, all the citizens of of Detroit. But then when you say that right there, the next thing you say is, okay, well, where's the money gonna come from? Okay, once you say that, then all the focus begins to shift over to, by the way, where the dollars? Where's the money we gonna spend? How we gonna get it? How we gonna make it happen? That's what it becomes then. How are we going to make that occur? Then you start focusing on, okay, who's passing the hat? Who's getting the funds? What do we need? Where are the bankers? If we can't get to the bankers, what are the obstacles in our way of getting to the bankers? See, ain't nobody sitting up here trying to dance no damn Dougie at a time like that. You trying to crack down on this and get answers. You trying to get things popping and moving. Because you don't want to be a squatter in your own city. You don't want to just be an observer in your own city. You want to be relevant and moving things in your own city. You don't want to just be somebody sitting around. You want to be taking control of your destiny in your own city. And that's important. Because if you're not leading your destiny in your city, somebody else is and somebody else will. So that's why it's crucial and important that we be in charge of that. Furthermore, you don't have a legacy to pass on to your children if other people are determining what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. You're just living in the city and you don't actually have any control of where it's going. Well, you and the kids are going to be sitting there, well, if you're still allowed to sit there, because when you're not leading it, other people get to make decisions, including deciding whether or not you will be there at all. They get to make all kinds of choices that you don't get to be a part of. And history has made it very clear to us, if folks start making decisions, they insist on making decisions without us in the room, that means that they're making decisions about us. You know when they're making decisions that are not very important because you in the room. If they allow us in the room, generally speaking, it's like, okay, the real subjects, we don't talk about it. You're in the room, okay, you can come on in now. You can come on in. We'll talk about this a little bit over here. But as soon as they show up and they start doing that, it's like, okay, well, don't worry. You're out the room now. Now we can get down to talking about the real subjects we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the real thing now. These are conversations that, by the way, are supposed to be taking place at your HBCUs. Aren't these the conversations that should be taking place at your HBCUs? Should they not be discussing empire building, nation building, economics? Should this not be first? Hell, the HBCUs should be nothing but centers of economics. They should be absolutely nothing but centers of economics, and they're not. You shouldn't even really have to talk to me in that regard to get that done. They should be doing that themselves. That should be the only topic of conversation for them. You're sitting in places where black folk are being economically devastated, and yet your HBCUs do not have constant communication and conversation about that. Meanwhile, over at Harvard Business School, Wharton Business School, so with the other folks, that conversation is happening 24/7. The folks who got wealth, that's the only conversation that they're having. The folks who need it, at our schools, they're discussing everything except that. Then when a Deion Sanders comes booming into town and you actually have an opportunity to transform and change things, nobody's ready to do it. Because the folks, quote, in charge are not really trying to change the economic landscape, which is where you're getting your butts kicked at. We sit here and, by the way, I dare you to tell me what they really talk about in their classes. I dare you to tell me what they really talk about that's of any significance. Don't tell me about the federal government giving billions of dollars. You're giving billions of dollars for what? For folks to sit in that place and babble at you? That's what they're doing? You're spending billions of dollars to get babbled at. To sit there and talk about LGBT studies. To sit there and tell you we need to vote for Democrats. You have a categorically inept teacher in front of the classroom, teaching you absolutely nothing. Telling you, well, don't worry, just go for your degree. Join the sorority or the fraternity. You need to do that. That's right up your alley. Don't worry about what you're missing or what you're not getting. Not really that important. You would figure that they would be focused like a laser beam. You'd figure that, and you'd be wrong. So what's their real damn goal? You've already seen what the goal is. Keep you preoccupied. Don't worry about what we're teaching or what we're not teaching. Let's go ahead and get you an MBA you can't use. Let's get you some social studies or some liberal arts you can't use. Let's train you to be a feminist, and then you all can sit up here and go fight for a little old handicap ass position on MSNBC. See how that works out. I'm showing you that these other folks ain't even talking like that. You can sit there on Bowling Ball Martin's little YouTube show year after year. Here he is a decade later. By the way, they're not talking about any of the things I just mentioned. They're not talking about any of that. No wonder Roland has the Democrats, at least they're giving him some tangential support. Because he's not talking about anything, and he's certainly not challenging anything. The only thing he's challenging the Democrats on is, hey, y'all need to be more democratic. He's not challenging the power structure. He's challenging the proletariat. He's not saying that the Democrats, quote, in charge are wrong. He's looking at you and me and telling us that we're wrong. Do you get that? He's not looking at the white power structure in the Democratic Party, the leadership, and telling them that they're wrong. He's looking at you and me and telling us that we're wrong. That sounds hella convenient. Certainly alleviates the white folk at the top who pull his strings from having to say that, because you would see it for what it was then. If that happened, you would actually see it for what it was. No, they send him out to go do it. His job is to go out to go do it so that they don't have to. And when he sits up and looks stupid, he's perfectly fine doing that because niggas come cheap. Especially folks like him. They come real damn cheap. We don't come cheap at all. We're expensive. Too expensive for them. No, I'll support an HBCU if they're actually doing something useful, but you're going to have to qualify for my vote, and you'll have to qualify for my support. You've been around decades. You've had more than enough time to get that together. If that were going to happen, you'd have more than enough time to get that together. Let me go ahead and check on this here. Okay, I'm not really sure what's going on. Again, Blog Talk is up to their usual nonsense. That's okay. What I'm going to go ahead and turn on Zoom, which is always a risk around this place, by the way. Always a risk around here. But I'm going to go ahead and see about opening up Zoom here tonight. I know folks love it more when I put Zoom on, but I'm going to go ahead and get Zoom up and going for you all. They're up to some of their nonsense over there on Blog Talk again, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get it popping. We're here on the 4th of July because this is what we do. And we are making it plain that our agenda is still the agenda and our work is still the work. And we are right on the money like we've always been. So while everybody else is trying to figure out what they mean or what they want or what they're going to do, we got you ahead of the curve. Let me go ahead and throw the link up in the chat room here. Let me go ahead and throw that up. Okay, there you go. All right, let me pin that to the top of the chat. There you go. All right, there's the Zoom link in the chat room there for you. I guess they're having technical difficulties tonight. Again, on Blog Talk, we're going to have to see about that. But in the meantime, the link is available for you all here. If you want to go ahead and take advantage of that as well. You know, if we had somebody representing our interests a decade ago, this wouldn't even be necessary, by the way. We'd be able to do other things, but you have to galvanize people now because folks have not been protecting our interests. Detroit was a story of a black city that went into bankruptcy, but there was a story behind the story, and you did not have your old black media discussing this at all. None of them were saying anything. They were backing Issa Rae, if you'll all remember. They were backing her. They were saying that she was what we needed. They were putting the spotlight on that. At a time when we needed to be informed, they wanted us to be entertained. Don't you see that's what they always want us to do? Because if you're entertained, you're never actually properly informed. If you're not properly informed, then you are always at the last minute scrambling around for information and just hoping that whoever you bumped into last gave you the correct thing to say or to do. And that's what you end up with. So you're not well informed. If you're not well informed, you're voting for somebody, usually because somebody else told you, and you're just hoping that they are well informed enough for your best interests. Folks, this is a damn disgrace. You should never have that. We should not be looking at places like Detroit and Atlanta, where everybody's got us is trying to their best to influence us to think that what we have isn't worth anything because we're in charge. Or at least with the majority of the population. Everybody wants to convince you that it's not worth anything because of that. I'm here to tell you that it's worth a lot simply because of that. And they are confirming it. You don't have real estate prices and real estate values doing what they're doing, and that's not what it really is. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I got somebody here on Zoom. At least they're trying to be on Zoom. At least they're trying to be. We'll give them a moment here to go ahead and get that up and going for us. All right, here, whoever's on Zoom, I want you to go ahead and make sure you have everything on for us. Okay, do you hear us?
Yes.
All right, Azu, and what's on your mind?
Hey, just do you think there's any merit to rebuilding our own candidates and running for office in our local communities?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's where you want to start at. So you definitely need to do that. But then the question becomes, what's the agenda? You know, where a lot of folks get
is, of course, reparations.
Well, okay, that's good. I think a lot of folks sometimes get confused and are not really sure, because what happens is, you know, they start talking about political parties, for example. If they start talking about political parties, this is one of those things that becomes an issue. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of this because Michael Imhotep took a couple shots at yours truly during that Roland Martin little video there. He took a few shots at yours truly. So I'm Michael, I see you over there. And I told the truth about you last time. I see you over there. So I'm going to get to you this weekend. I'm not getting to you tonight. I'm going to get to you this weekend. I got other things. I got more important things to take care of right now, but I'm coming back to you. But I want you to understand, candidates, first and foremost, we are not going to be fully matured as a people until we selected our candidates, but selecting them doesn't just mean pointing the finger. Selecting them means first and foremost, what is the agenda? That's first and foremost. What interest is it that we're electing them or selecting them to represent on our behalf? We cannot have, if you have a city of 100,000 black people, you can't have 100,000 different definitions. You can't have 100,000 different ones. You're going to have to consolidate. So I think that's more important. I don't think you can't get to the candidates until you all have an agenda. When you all have an agenda, then you go selecting candidates. You see how that works? You don't select a candidate first and then find an agenda. You have the agenda first, and then all you do is select the candidates who back the agenda.
So we need to raise local consciousness first and have a group identity.
And that is what I have been doing now for a decade and a half behind this microphone. It's not sexy work. It's not glamorous work. It's slow. It's not a TikTok video. You ain't gonna we're not gonna change the world in 60 short seconds. It doesn't work that way. Going viral once doesn't fix it. Going viral 100 times doesn't fix it. You're going to have to be on a steady campaign for years, and you're going to have to outlast, outwork, and outdo everybody. That's the only way it happens. That's why I was telling folk the last time I was on here the other night, that this is a battle for hearts and minds. And you're going to have to be the first politician. If you're going to win the battle for setting an agenda, you have to be an effective operative for that agenda. Talking to your neighbors, your friends, other folk, talking on your social media. You're going to have to be a competent operative. You can't be a buffoon stumbling over things. You can't be like Joe Biden. You have to know these things. You have to be ready to talk about this stuff, and if somebody objects to it, you have to be ready to debunk it and defend it.
Right.
If you can't, just remember, if you go out there stumbling and bumbling, then everyone just assumes, oh, that's what your agenda is too. If you're clumsy, then they assume that whatever it is you're backing is clumsy too. If you are on point and solid, then they're going to assume that what you're talking about is on point and on solid too. So You first and foremost have to inform yourself. Then you secondly have to inform the people around you. Do not be discouraged by that. And then that forms the agenda. Now we're prepared to go talk to politicians. Now we're prepared to select one. Now we're actually prepared to do some of that unsexy work that I was just talking about.
Gotcha.
But you can't just do that out of nowhere. So start there. You see, seems like you've been following. How long you been listening to me?
I've been listening to the Black Authority and Professor Black Truth, I'd say, for maybe 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Well, definitely I'm going to tell you as the anchor man here, you want to memorize as much of this. You don't even have to figure out what it is. I've already told you what to say. That's why I take calls, is so I can show you all if an objection comes up. You don't even have to figure out what to say. Just repeat what I just said. If you heard this question before, hey, well, what did Jason say? Just repeat what he said. I assure you, it'll work. That's why I show you all. It works. You don't even have to figure it out. Just repeat what I said. You've been properly informed.
Gotcha.
Start there. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and see if I can check on another one here. I've got we got Garveyite here on Zoom, or at least we're working on that. And like I say, apologies there. We're probably going to have to find another avenue for that. Okay, Garveyite, why are you calling me up and you are shirtless? What are we doing there? Now you got me worried that there's some chicanery going on, so I need you to put a shirt on and turn your camera back on. If you're trying to do a strip tease or anything, we're not really interested. So nobody can, one more thing, nobody can hear you or see you right now, so I can give you a few seconds to get that straightened out, but Now you got me concerned that you might be auditioning for your OnlyFans, so I'll give you a few seconds here to get a shirt on. I don't really know what we're trying to do, but yeah, just in case you're trying to get your OnlyFans popping or, your Finster going. Okay, did this Negro just put his pants on too? Okay, it got me real worried now. All right, sir, what's on your mind?
So, I have some questions for you, Mr. Black Authority.
Okay.
So, number one is, what would be your solutions to the problem in Detroit?
What would be the solution to it?
Yes. No. Like, what are your solutions to the problem in Detroit?
Okay, I'm not understanding that word. What is my what to the problems in Detroit?
Your solutions, like
my solutions?
No.
Okay, nigga, spell it. Yeah, spell the word. What is the word you're trying to say? Spell the word.
SOLUTION.
Okay, I said solutions. I said that before. You said, what are my solutions? Okay, y'all, he thought it was a different word. You asked him what are the solutions to the problem in Detroit.
Yes.
It's the same solution. The solution is the same everywhere. Period. The problem is economics. The solution is money. It's really just that simple. And what happened to us is we've been hoodwinked in previous generations, bamboozled or otherwise seduced into saying that the solution is something else. And it's not. It's not religion. It's not education. It's not integration. It's none of those things. We need to be the most business-minded, economics-minded people on the planet. Period. That's what we have taken. Our eye has been taken off the ball of that to make us a worker class. And as the worker class, we're subject to whatever the producer class does. So that's why you see everything. Your water's messed up, your schools are messed up, your house is messed up. Well, yeah, because they only make a lane for you to the extent that it benefits them. So that's the reason why.
Okay. And my second question is, do you support the idea of reparations?
Okay, he's new around here. How long you been listening to my program, sir?
Since 2017. Since for like 7 years.
Okay, then I'm curious. Why are you asking me if I support reparations then?
Because I created an entire plan, almost 100 slides on Google Docs.
Wait a minute, try that again.
I created a reparations plan on Google Docs, almost 100 slides.
Okay, where are your people from, sir?
My people are from the continent, the motherland.
Okay, which specific part, sir? There's like 40 countries over there.
Western.
Okay, can we narrow it down a little bit more than Western, sir? That's a huge chunk of geography.
Specifically the country of Liberia.
Okay, your folks are from Liberia. Okay, and just out of curiosity here, your reparation slides.
Yeah.
What exactly were you going to be suggesting as a descendant of Liberians? I'm just curious.
So I have an entire list of Black people's emails, almost over 30 of them, and I plan on sending my plan to all of them to see what they think about it, and to see what they think about it, because I want to give Black people some reparations in America.
Okay. Well,
I support the idea of reparations, and I want to send it to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think if you've been listening to me since 2017, you do not think that what I've been saying here is the plan for reparations. You think there needs to be some adjustments to it.
Well,
Okay, try
I
it
would
again.
say yes to a certain degree because it should be practical and it should work. It can't just be all theory. It has to. You have to take it and apply it.
Okay, but sir, that is not what I asked you. You say you've been listening to me since 2017, which means that you realize that, by the way, I've been talking about reparations the entire time that you've been listening to me. So I'm just saying, if you've been listening since 2017, what is it that you've heard in the last 7 years that didn't cover everything? What is it you're covering that we haven't covered in the last 7 years?
Well, in my plan, I talk about empire building. I talk about like privileges, opportunities, and resources. I talk about. I have an entire cast of people in the plan, and Tariq and as well as Professor Black Truth also in the plan. I talk about why it should be given to us. I talk, and a lot of stuff, and a lot more.
Okay,
I talk about
but I'll say this again though, sir. What if you've been listening to me since 2017? What is it that we didn't cover already? Because you say you have 100 slides on Google Docs, and I'm wondering.
No. Sorry, it's almost 100 slides. It's nice.
Okay, well, you got 50 slides on Google Docs, and I'm wondering, what do you have on there that we haven't already covered?
It's not 50. It's like more like 98, 99, somewhere around like 98, 99.
Okay, sir, last try. What is it that you're covering on there that we haven't already covered here?
I think what I'm covering is the bourgeoisie okay. So I think what I've covered is the perspectives on reparations. Like, okay, I have three different points of view on the idea of
Okay, let's try this. Let's try this a different way. Who do you think qualifies for reparations in America?
I think Black people who are descendants of slaves qualify for it.
Okay, Black people who are descendants of slaves. Can you be a little more specific than that?
Specifically FBA in ADOS.
Okay. I think you said something earlier though about your folks are from Liberia.
Yes, yeah. My family is from there.
Okay. And I'm just curious then, how did you arrive back over here if they're from Liberia then?
I was born here.
Okay, so they went over there and came back?
No. So my mom's been over here for over 30 years. My dad's been over here for over 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born here in America.
Okay. And when did your family leave from over here?
Well, again, my dad left there in like the early 2000s. My mom left there in like the early 90s, like 90s in the 90s.
Right, I'm talking about when did your family originally go over?
I'm not sure about my other family members, but I'm for certain about just my immediate parents. I'm not sure about my aunts, uncles, and uncles and other family members. Just my mom and my dad.
Okay. Well, I think that's all a very interesting point that you're making there. First thing I want you to understand is that well, before I go any further, how old are you, young man? Is it really that stressful?
This is my first time ever talking to you on a Zoom.
Understood. How old are you, young man?
don't want to give that out. I don't want to share that.
Okay. I don't know.
But I would tell you I'm almost 20. I'll tell you that.
You're almost 20.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start with some basics here first so you can understand something. I'm very glad to see your enthusiasm about reparations. That's very important, particularly for young people, because you'll be the ones required to take up this with us now. And biologically speaking, you'll probably be doing it after we're gone. Although hopefully it doesn't get that far along. But in the event it does, hopefully you will be a competent operative to be able to do that. First of all, it doesn't take 50 of anything to explain reparations. It barely takes 50 words. So don't say in 50 pages what you can say in one. This is a complex subject, or at least it's a subject that people don't desire. You need to get straight to the point as quickly as humanly possible. It doesn't take a whole lot of mountains and reams of evidence. That's not for you. Your job is to simply and concisely state what the issue is and what the solution is. Now, we want reparations. Well, what is reparations? Cash payments. Cash payments for what? Compensation for our unpaid contribution to the country that has robbed us of economically where we're supposed to be. There is no substitute for that. That is the root of all the other things. You notice they didn't take 50 words, they didn't take 50 seconds. So when you do that, you've made your case. If there needs to be elaboration beyond that, I would even keep that to be short and concise, because you're going to run into the same talking points. But before you do that, I really want you to make things very, very concise. 50 of anything is too much, too long, too far. You're not here to write a reparations plan for the state. That's not what you're here for.
It's not 50. It's almost 100.
Okay. Sir, you don't need 50 or 100, much less 100. You don't need that. All you need is to sum it up in one or two sentences. If you go on too long, remember you've lost your audience. So I'm trying to tell you about basic communication now. You take that long and you've lost your audience. Let's try this a different way. How long would it take for a person to sit down and go through your 98 Google slides? How long would that take?
It does. Well, here's the thing. There's
okay. Can you just give me a number? How long would it take for a person to go through the 98 slides that you've accumulated so far?
Being nice, I would say an hour.
Correct. So you want somebody. So what you're saying is that what you're saying is that on average you want people to give you an hour of their time to explain reparations.
Actually, when I say an hour, I'm lowballing it because I put articles and videos in there.
Correct, but that's you explain it now.
So
okay, you explain. You already said what you said. You want an hour of their time. That's far too long. Far too long. I know that's not what you want to hear, but do you want to be effective or do you want to hear what you want to hear?
I want to be effective.
Okay.
And I want to be
sir. Okay. If your way is not effective, do you want to keep arguing for why you should do it your way because you're emotionally invested in it?
No.
Okay. That's too long, sir. I don't know. That's not what you want to hear, but that's too long. You're gonna lose their attention before you get anywhere. So the first solution I'm going to give to you is, don't give 100 slides of anything. 1 or 2. And that is it. But here's the other thing. I don't think that you're informed enough on the subject to be able to give 100 slides of anything. And a bunch of articles are not what you need. Nobody is questioning whether or not we deserve it. The real question is whether or not you make the argument of how it's facilitated. Not trying to convince people of all the wrongs that have been done to us.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying, but the articles are related to the topic.
Yes, sir. I repeat what I say again, sir. You don't have to do that. You're retreading ground. There are literally thousands of incidents that are what justify our call for reparations. learn to say less. Assume that people get it, but learn to say less. You have to get right to the point because an hour of people's time is very expensive. So that's the first thing I'm going to tell you there. An hour of their time is very expensive. You need to be able to say everything you're trying to say within 60 seconds. That 100 slides, you need to summarize that in 60 seconds. If they require more details after that, that's a different matter. And you should be prepared for that, but that's not your pitch. Your pitch can't be an hour long. Your pitch needs to be 60 seconds long. If they ask for more details, now that's where you can take an hour. But you're not there. And you're not one of those people that would be happening with in that regard. You're the guy who needs to condense that down to 60 seconds.
So you're saying that I need a 30-second pitch and then go into detail.
Boy, that would be 30 seconds would be even better. Yes, sir. Because remember one thing, you're young, you've never done sales or corporate work before. The longer you keep talking at people, the more they get lost. Okay, just listen. The longer you talk at people, the more that they get lost. You know what you're talking about, but they don't. The longer that you talk at them, the more you're giving yourself a chance to lose them, but also the more that you might be convincing them that you're trying to cheat them or con them because it's taking you so long. Now, that's not what you want to hear, but this isn't about what you want to hear. If you're being corrected, say thank you and soak up the game. It's like, oh boy, I was on the wrong route. Thanks for getting me on the right one. But I'm letting you know, enthusiasm is not the issue here. If you want to be effective, then be effective. But being effective is being concise. 100 slides is way too much, way too long. So start there. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Yeah, y'all, he wants to have a very brief hour of your time. He would just like to have an hour of your time. It's like, we got to move it a little bit quicker than that. Let me see if I can get my man BK Ammon on here. All right, BK, and what is on your mind, brother?
Hey, peace and blessings, Jason. I just want to start out by saying, I definitely appreciate all the time, all the effort that you always put in. You're very consistent. You, Mr. Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth. So I just want to take time to really just just ask that. So my initial question was, what exactly should we do to really move this thing forward? And when you were schooling the previous caller, you had mentioned economics, or no, it was the first Zoom caller. You had mentioned economics. I just wanted to ask, what are the practicalities of that? Like, what industries? Because I have a career, but I feel like a job is just over broke. That's just what it stands for. Economic freedom is very crucial. I'm just wanting to know, because it seems like, it's such a slow fight. It's such a slow fight, and I don't want to be discouraged, but it seems like it's so unfair. It's so unfair. It's like, I think about all these towns, all these cities that if they were never bombed, if they were never destroyed, where would the foundational Black Americans be today?
Well, that's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions there. I'm not sure which one you want to deal with first.
Yes, sir.
If that hadn't happened, where would we be today? We would be a hell of a lot further along than we are. Basically, we would be ahead of the Asians today. When you take a look at Madam C.J. Walker, and we can go down the list, if you multiply that by 10,000, which is what happens when you genocide the people. So you multiply her by 10,000, dude. Take a look at every place where we are the majority in that industry. We're not just the majority, we're hyper dominant. We're basically the only thing moving. And that's why they've tried to confine us to those areas, because we're the most competitive people you're going to find, period. So I tell you, take a look at that. That is our spirit. That's our track record. That's our culture. We have a culture of competitiveness, period, up and down. So imagine us being Michael Jackson and Madam C.J. Walker and anybody else you can name there for the last 100 years. Imagine if that was just allowed to run wild with no brakes, no hampers, no anything. They sat up there and put their boots on that neck until the end of the 20th century. So that's a whole century that we were stopped, and they're still doing it today. So just imagine if we had been able to do that generation after generation for 100 years. You would not be able to recognize the United States of America today. You would not recognize it. You would not recognize it. It would be a completely foreign place to people today. You'd be like, where in the hell is this? If we were actually allowed to run it and actually be able to show how good we really are. If the other folks had to actually compete, because the way they do things would have to change radically. Yeah. What you've seen is 100 years of what happens when white society is moving without competing.
Real. That's real.
Take a look at all the areas where we dominate. They got to compete. Take a look at everybody got to step their game up. What you're seeing right now is actually the hobbled, handicapped version of America.
Telling you.
So that's the first thing there. Now, as far as the thing you said there before, you said you have a job. That's great and everything. Look, first of all, do everything you can do within yourself. Black excellence. Don't look around the damn neighborhood and up the block and everything for black excellence. Black excellence begins with you. It begins with you. Well, what does that mean? What is our credit score? What is our savings? What is your upward mobility? What is your agenda? You are a cell in the black body. You're not an arm, you're not a leg, you're a cell. But guess what? Cancer is too. Cells, you need healthy cells to live. Unhealthy cells will kill you.
Thanks.
Especially if you get sick enough or you have enough of them. So do not underestimate the value of what you are. You're a cell in the body. Your job is to be a healthy, strong, viable cell. That's your job. So when you take a look at yourself, first and foremost, do not look at the rest of the society talking about, well, how are we going to get them together? No. You focus on you, because first and foremost, you need to be straight. But secondly, you can't help anybody else if you're not actually straight yourself. Yes, you just got delusions of grandeur, and then you're sitting here tapping your finger, waiting for the rest of them to get themselves together. Yeah. And then you ain't going to move till they get themselves together. No, you start moving. You get yourself together so you can actually lead them. And not lead them necessarily back to me. Your job is to listen to us here. You hear what we have to say. You get up in your life and you start making things happen on your own. And don't ask where the leader of the resistance is. You're the leader. Your job is not to know everything. I trust in you that you're going to learn all you need to know. Absolutely. But you're going to learn from what you do, not from just watching. So if you do have a job or whatever, if you want to do more than that, you're going to have to learn how to do more than that. And that takes resources. You're going to spend the time before you spend any money. And you have to have the will to do it, but that doesn't start with, I need ready folks to get themselves together so we can do something. No. You don't start with we, you start with you. You start with you. And when you're a serious person, then you start getting the attention of other serious people, or at least you're in position to work with other serious people. But one of the biggest issues we run into is that folks do at this planning stage. The young man just got off the phone with me, the planning stage. Everybody's sitting up here trying to get things done from the planning stage, as opposed to the doing things stage.
Gotta execute.
We didn't do what we do in the new black media and the filming and the media and changing the national conversation from planning. I'm gonna go get me some cameras and we're gonna go talk to people there. No, got up and did it. Even if your first efforts were a little awkward, this is new. Okay, but this is just the first effort. It's not gonna be the last one. So start with yourself. Do not look at everybody else. Start with you. Take a look at your savings account. Take a look at your credit score. That's where your power base is for you as an individual. If your power base is strong, it needs to be stronger, and you deal with other people. And you notice I'm not even asking you what yours are. Don't tell me. But what I am saying is that if it ain't up to code, hey, that's where you're supposed to start. Case in point, even if you want to talk about politics, you don't really have some of the campaign limits locally that you have nationally. So for president, you can only give $2,500. But locally and whatnot, you usually don't have the same limits that you have nationally. That's why you got so many of your local businesses and whatnot can buy off your politicians and things like that. And everybody complains about it. But then they don't go through the numbers and take a look at, hey, well, let me find out what that really was. How did we change things in Ferguson, Missouri a decade ago? because Jason Black did what nobody else did. My brother Timothy out there in Missouri, shout out to him. I always give credit where credit is due. I came up with the idea, and there were certain campaign records I could get online, but there were certain ones I couldn't. So you see, I learned about Missouri law, and I learned what was actually happening in Ferguson, Missouri. While everybody was talking about Mike Brown, I actually found out what was happening. Two things I found out. Number one, it didn't cost that much for the Ferguson City Council and mayor to get where they were. The cost of a used car, now I'm talking about a cheap used car, less than $10,000, is what got that city council there and the mayor there. Less than $10,000. For some of the council members, it was much, much less than that. Well, Jason, what do you mean? In the state of Missouri, if you spent, I think it's like, is it $1,000 or less or $500 or less? Or if you spent nothing, you didn't have to turn in campaign, you did not have to register the campaign finance records with the state. What I'm saying is that the state website where just anybody can download it for public records, you were not required to be on that one. If you raised just a little money or didn't have to raise any at all, you didn't have to submit that paperwork like that. I mean, you had to submit it, but they didn't have to put it on file on the internet. So you would have to go down to either City Hall or the state building to go get those records in person. And that's what we had to do to go get those other few records in person. We had to go down to that. Well, Timothy went down there and went to go get those records in person. And that's when we found out why we couldn't get them online. They didn't advertise that. They didn't say it on the state website. By the way, even if you only way to raise a little bit of money, you don't have to actually have the records on the website, and you have to go pick them up in person. That's why you got to get them in person. So what I'm saying is that there were most of the folk in Ferguson only spent like $5,000 to $6,000 campaigning. The mayor might have spent $7,000 or $8,000. I forget how much it was. But there were 2 or 3 of them on the council who didn't spend nothing. There were 2 or 3 of them on the city council who didn't spend anything. So let me get this straight. He won his seat and didn't spend $300?
Wow.
Yes.
It's hard to believe.
Okay, but guess what? MSNBC didn't tell you this. ABC didn't tell you this. Hell, remember, they didn't talk about Ferguson for 3 days. All of y'all who were here, Ferguson was on fire for 2 or 3 days before the national media said anything. If it wasn't for us on the internet and the new black media, the national corporate media, the cable television media, MSNBC, wasn't talking about it until we stayed on it. That was a story that we created. And even after we got started on it, remember they blacked out the helicopters, made the no-fly zone, remember? How many of y'all remember that in Ferguson? They made that a no-fly zone. The FAA said no helicopters, no news, nothing. We're talking about in America, not Russia, not North Korea, right here on American soil. That's what they're doing, right here on American soil. Oh, yeah, and who was president? By the way, and who was president? Yikes. Oh, boy. Oh, who? Oh, boy. All right, never mind. Forget that. Bypass. But in any case, you see some draconian things that happen there, and the cable television media outlets were not going to talk about that. And they didn't talk about it, and they're not talking about it to this day. So that's what I'm talking about, putting the work in. So if I told you that for the cost of a used car that you paid for cash, you could have paid more than they spent to win their seats on the Ferguson City Council. At that point right there, you start saying to yourself, well, I'll be damned.
Can I ask a question, sir?
How are they running the damn government down here?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
So, just, recapping what you've told me, I have to start with myself. I have to build up my own equity, build up my own sovereignty, and start increasing my economic ability to earn, increase my upward mobility. When does, and start networking? It sounds like that's what you're encouraging.
Okay, first and foremost, you need, if you want to have an above average life or an extraordinary life, you have to be excellent. Jason, excellent at what? Something useful. Okay. That is where everything else grows from. When you start that's why I say black excellence. When you start holding that as a standard for yourself, the way you speak. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. Do you hear my southern accent right now? Do you think that's accidental? I have to practice at that. Every once in a while, I find it creeping itself out. I gotta tuck it back under. Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I'm communicating with people nationally. So I keep that in mind. So what I'm saying is these are skill sets. So from the way I speak to what I speak about to how I speak about it, I challenge myself with memory problems, which is why I can sit up here and tell you about what I was talking about 10 years ago and bring this all back up 10 years later and say, hey, by the way, I've been talking about this for 10 years. That I'm just saying those are just basic examples. If you're holding that as a standard for yourself every day, then things change. If you don't hold it for a standard for yourself, no wonder you can't pull it off. You're not even practicing it. So first and foremost, you start there. Being excellent.
Like militant excellence.
People who are
with the excellence.
Well, I mean, you can call it whatever you want to. I'm just saying just be excellent. You can be radically excellent, militantly excellent, fiercely excellent, malnourished excellent, whichever one it is. But the bottom line is that needs to be your culture, that needs to be your code of conduct every day. You don't dress in clothes that can fall off you. You never know when you got to whoop somebody's ass. You need to be war ready 24 hours a day. You have to be war ready anywhere and everywhere you are. So, not being caught slipping out there, things like that. Your finances don't need to be caught slipping. If you're not ready for an emergency expenditure, you got caught slipping. You got caught lacking. Okay. That's what I'm saying. It's supposed to be across your life. If I don't see you taking your profession seriously, I know what your personal life is. Okay. I don't even have to see your personal life. I'm taking a look at you on the job, and vice versa. You don't take your personal life seriously. I know what you're doing at work. How you do one thing is how you do all things. So you need to be excellent. If you are in the top 10% of whatever it is, then I promise you there's no way you're not going to have resources after that. If you're still asking where the resources are, you ain't in the top 10%. So your job is to focus on that. I don't care what you do for a living. If you're in the top 10%, you ain't going to be struggling. Yeah. If you're struggling, you're not in the top 10%.
Man, it's just a job. Like, I think.
Okay, what you're telling me is that you don't have a skill set. That's what you're telling me.
I'm currently in process.
What you're telling me is that you don't have a skill set. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me you have a job. What you're also telling me is you don't have a skill set.
Building it right now. Sorry.
Okay, but you don't have it.
Not quite yet.
Okay, thank you. Because at your job, if they told you told them, hey, I didn't get paid this weekend. Oh, we building your paycheck. No, we got it, but we building it. What would you say? You ain't got it. Well, we need you to come to work tomorrow. I don't think I can. Well, why not? You building my paycheck. I'm building the will to come to work.
No excuses.
Okay,
no
thank
excuses.
you. You wouldn't spot them that. Well, okay, I'll work this week now while y'all building it. You be like, hey, nigga, either you got it or you don't. I'm looking at my bank account. You ain't got it. You ain't got it. Well, we working on it. Well, you ain't got it. Yeah. Oh, I mean, we got it. I mean, you gotta give us credit. I ain't gotta give you credit for nothing. The rent due on Monday regardless. So, brother, you ain't got it. Let's not play games with ourselves and try to save our egos. Yeah. Either you got it or this is math. Either you got it or you don't. Yeah. When you actually do have it, that's step number one. Step number two is making sure you're excellent at whatever it is. Okay. After that, the money makes itself. Now that you've adopted all of those as your own personal practices, now you're going to insist on that in the rest of the world. The folks who work on your car, the folks who work on your house, the politicians down there at City Hall, the folks down there at the television station, because you're like, I'll be damned. If I can give my 90% of what I'm doing, y'all can do it too. You stop accepting excuses from other people when you stop accepting them from yourself. When you start showing yourself that you can get it, that's when you ain't having niggas with their hands out to you. You're like, wait a minute, what Juvenile say? Y'all grown men. If I can get up and get it, you can get it too.
No excuses.
If I can get up and get it, and if there's things that I want to do, and I don't do that because I got man stuff to be doing. If I can do that, you can do it too. So when you stop accepting excuses from yourself and you start demanding results from yourself, guess what? You start demanding them from everybody else. And that includes your family, your friends, the media, your politicians, your banker. How you do one thing is how you do all things. Wow. So start with you. Make it your business to be about your business every day. Don't pick up your cell phone and go to Facebook and start bull jiving. If you're picking up your cell phone, there better be business on the other end. If there isn't, why the hell is it in your hands?
I think we have time.
Dr. John Henry Clark said that in the European culture, everything that moved, they thought the Galvanizing was a war chariot because in their minds, everything that moves for war. For you, everything that moves needs to move for business. When you adopt that as your daily mindset, everything else falls into place. You're going to look at your bank account. This bank account does not look war ready. This does not look like a war chest. Yeah. I got to get on the job for it. Take a look at my studies and whatever you studying for. Hey, I'm not at the top of the class for that. I got to get on my game. I would love to be grabbing old girls' butt cheeks. I got to get this over here together.
Gotta focus.
Because this is going to build the future. I got to focus on this. She'll be all right. I got to focus on this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the wisdom. You know, my mother said that if two people enter a room and they have a conversation and they both leave laughing, the truth wasn't told. Like, the truth is usually bitter, and that's facts. I can't lie to myself.
Wow.
Can't lie to myself.
I would make an adjustment to that. It could be if two people enter a room and then they both leave laughing, either nothing serious happened or they're plotting against somebody and they just figured out how they're going to do it.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Like I say, there might be nothing good that happened. Then again, they might have come to a decision about somebody. They might be real happy because they're like, yeah, finally done figured out what we going to do about him. All right, I got my man Terrence here on Zoom. All right, brother Terrence, what's on your mind? Okay, I think Terrence is working on that newfangled technology.
Terrence is working on that newfangled
Okay,
technology.
turn off your speakers, Terrence.
Working on that newfangled technology.
Turn off your speakers. Here we go.
Gotcha. Hey, what's up, Jason?
All right, Terrence, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so like as far as like what's going on now, as far as like politically, it seems like a lot of like the Democratic shills are like starting to like wake up and like they're starting to pay attention. You know, even like in social media, when you go back and forth as far as like the reparations claims, they tend to, you know, talk back more and like, combat it. You know what I mean? They bring up certain things like, you know, they always do every 4 years. When you have people like Taraji P. Henson, get on, the BET Awards and say to the Black community that, we must vote or else, it takes me back to like, the 2020s and 2016s, the whole vote or die thing.
I mean, that's their job, though. That's their function. Please remember, I've told y'all about this. I mean, I don't want to speak ill on Taraji. I know over the years, sometimes I've given her a little bit of trouble. I don't have anything against Taraji, just some of the usual stuff she does sometimes. But I don't have anything against her. But she said this herself, okay? So this is the only reason I'm about to say what I'm saying. She put this out there. I did not come. I'm not throwing this in her face. She said this. Wasn't she the one told y'all that, by the way, she only made like, what, $50,000 or $20,000, something like that from Benjamin Button? That she basically didn't get no money? After she paid taxes and paid all her people and whatever, she really didn't get nothing? Or turned $12,000, whatever the hell it is, that number they keep. Okay, I believe that. She ain't just talking, dude. I mean, that's real talk. That's real talk. Now that you know that, if I tell you where she lives and where she's driving, well, that tells you how hard she got to work to keep that going. So if she gets a call from the White House, hey, here's a few extra dollars, she got to say yes. She's not really in a position to say no like that. If somebody dial up, it's like, oh, okay, I got to say yes.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. I think to a lot of like, people who are diehard, and, go to bat every day, demanding reparations, you know what I mean? It can be a bit frustrating when you got people that, work against us or kick against the pricks.
Well, I want you to understand something here, dude. Especially for the celebrity class. Y'all know, I know quite a few of them. All I can tell y'all is, I'm going to say this next sentence simply to give some folks some cover. I would just say with very few exceptions, dude, they go the highest bidder.
Right.
Period. I cannot say that you all are used to that psychology from your professional athletes. Brother, if they're in entertainment, they go to the highest bidder. If you got the most paper, you got the bands to make them dance. And you can get pretty much whatever you want. Why you think they got niggas in dresses and females in combat boots? Why do you think it is? Bro, I mean, that's who they got. So folks sit up here and you see the image and whatnot, and I'm just telling y'all, man, it's just, if I could tell you some stories, y'all be like, for real? It is what it is, man. It is what it is. So when you see these award shows and things, yeah, if you can stick out the most, because I've been saying this now for weeks. I want y'all to keep this in mind. They're thinking about their next gig. In the world of celebrities and entertainers, they are trying to line up their next gig. They're trying to get their next gig, the next contract. So if she can get a prominent position on the BET Awards, she's hoping that'll get enough attention to make it look like she stay relevant, so she can get another job somewhere, get another movie somewhere, another TV role somewhere. That's where she is. Brother, they spend most of their time chasing. And I want to talk about this because you brought up something here good. I know you got a number of things you want to talk about. I'm going to let you get to that. But I want to take this as a moment to advise you all. When you watch a Hollywood movie, do you realize that they finish shooting that movie at least a year and possibly 2 years before you saw it? So if you're watching a movie in 2024, that movie was finished at least in 2023, possibly in 2022. Like the Avengers movies with Disney, those things were finished 4 years or so before they actually released them. They had filmed, like Robert Downey Jr., they had done all his stuff for like the first 3 movies. And so it was like 5 or 6 years before they actually released the films. He had already shot his back. They put them together when they renewed his deal after Iron Man 2. Their deal was for that and all the Avengers movies, so they just shot all that together with him. So they wouldn't have to keep paying him. They shot all that together. And then released it 5, 6, 7 years later. So when you watch a television show, they filmed that season last year. So you're watching it this year, but they paid them for that last year. They're not paying them for that every week this year you seeing it. This year, they're trying to get another show. Another something. Now, to complicate matters even more, you got a lot of folks who are doing this stuff through streaming. On broadcast television, traditionally speaking, you'd have 22 episodes to a season. But with the advent of HBO with The Sopranos cut that back to like 13 episodes a season. Netflix is now down to like 6 episodes a quote season. Yeah, think that over for a moment. Wait a minute, we went from like on ER, whatever, 22 episodes a season, CSI, 22 episodes a season. On Netflix, it'd be 6 episodes a season now? Yep. Well, I'll be damned. You ain't getting paid nothing. So what I'm saying is you're going to get paid something, but you're going to be chasing another role very quickly. That ain't nothing to say grace over. That's nothing to say grace over. So I'm just saying this, when you all realize that, hell yeah, they're on the awards, so they'll say whatever the hell you want. Why ain't they there with Trump? Because they don't think it would go best with their friends, but he probably didn't pay enough. Case in point, Steve Harvey, Kanye West. Hold on a minute. 4 years ago, where was Steve Harvey? Kicking it with Trump. 4 years later, hello, Kamala. Well, wasn't you at Trump Tower with Trump 4 years ago? And everything was cool and everything was Swayze? 4 years later, he's sitting in front of Kamala. Brother, I can't make it no more plain for you. I can't make this any more plain. Your celebrity class goes to the highest bidder, and they have no shame. If the check is big enough and it clears the bank, that's it. That's it. And after that check clears, guess what? It's on to the next one. They literally it's out of their minds. As soon as they got paid, they're not even thinking about it anymore. It's on to the next.
Yeah,
literally.
It definitely like stings the brain though to think about that. Like how, how you say how diabolical that is. Like, at your family's detriment, that you would stoop so low to
whose family's detriment?
Your people.
Okay, I'm about to say, when you say family's detriment, because most of them don't like their families no way, but you my black folk, brother, they don't even care about their damn blood relatives. You and me, oh no, we don't even register. Come on now, in Hollywood, how often we hear about them and they kin folks getting into it? So you think you and me got more clout than their auntie they just hung up the phone on? Brother, you're giving too much credit. You give them too much credit. Maybe some of them like Boosie, they take care of their kids real good, but like the grown folks, they don't really fool with them that much. So no, you and me, no. We are supposed to be just their customer base. Our job is just to buy whatever they selling. But as far as ingratiating themselves, much less friendship or kinship, folks, it ain't there. It's not there. If you think about it, name one of those people who actually associates with black folk outside those celebrity shows. I'll wait. You can show me their girlfriend. You can show me they jump off. You can show me the nigga they got pregnant by. You can't really show me where they really fool with black people on a daily basis or a regular basis. You can just show me one time a year they get together at this awards show, they get together at this gala, they get together at this movie premiere, and after that, you don't see them around us. That's real life, man. That's real life. You're a profit center. You are where they go to work. And just like your job, you trying to get away from that, they ain't really trying to spend more time around you than they have to. For real, for real. So, yeah, we're going to kick it with Kamala because that's good for business. It's good for business. It's good for my career. And that's literally what it is. You can call it mercenarial. You can call it transactional. You can call it whatever you want to. Welcome to the business. Welcome to the business. All these janky record contracts, these janky movie deals, these the folk doing it. Brother, what you expecting? It's you and me. We all we got. I can't even include them. We all we got.
Yeah, it's sobering once you realize that, like these people, these entertainers, they're not our friends. These politicians, they're not our friends. We are all we get. To be perfectly honest,
they're not even fellow soldiers.
Absolutely not. I would like to say this too, Jason. Like I do mixed martial arts. I've been doing it for a while. I do competitions, BJJ and like Krav Maga, Muay Thai, things of that nature. Been doing it for the past 2 years, and like to the guys out there, I would say this, like especially like as far as you being black, like start taking like these martial arts, because there's a reason like you got so many people that are not your color taking these martial arts. And also when you take these martial arts, make sure you're careful, like who you may roll with, like who you may go in competition with, because a lot of these people are there to hurt you. A lot of these people are there to put your hurt your limbs, your knees, things of that nature. But like at the end of the day, like make sure you're taking something, and always be ready, because these people work tirelessly.
I don't want to start anything here, but I will say this. This is probably the first generation of males that I've ever witnessed where you literally have them on video. 5 or 6 of them can jump one person and not leave a scratch on them. I mean, we saw with Cam Newton. 4 or 5 niggas jump on you, didn't leave a scratch on him. Knocked his hat off, I think. But I'm just like, okay, so this is the hit squad? Think about that for a few moments. The Migos, when they got into it with somebody, a bunch of niggas with skinny jeans, a bunch of folks swinging and flailing and windmilling, and ain't nobody got injured. Nobody. Now, y'all remember back in the day with Suge Knight, that dude hit Suge Knight and laid him out. 6'4", 320 pounds,
yeah,
and whoever that dude, I forget what it was, he's not Suge, smooth, slapped the hell out. Okay, you about that business. I'm watching niggas, and that wasn't even on video. There's just a picture of Suge laid out. So I'm like, okay. 30 years later, these dudes is jumping people and ain't hurting nobody. This is your backup? Think about that for a few seconds, brother. You taking your mixed martial arts classes. Your backup, I'm right here with you. And yeah, they're going to be swinging and windmilling, but you realize I'm really kind of by myself out. This nigga can't bust a grape. I'm really by myself out here. If I don't, hopefully you'll be standing between me and them so I can take out the 2 dudes behind me, and maybe you'll stall them for a few seconds so I can do this Bruce Lee thing to come back. Maybe I can do that, because you ain't going to take him out. You're not going to do it. So you're my designated cheerleader. and you're my human shield, but see if you can hold the nigga leg long enough for me to get back to him. Just give me a second to deal with this fella behind me, and then, I mean, that's literally where we're at today. This is literally where we are, so I'm glad you're giving the advice because this is where we are today. A bunch of dudes with skinny jeans and dreads on their hair, and if something break down, they better bring a gun because they fists are useless. I mean, complete. You figure about changing the tire was the problem. So, I got to say, okay, I'll let you have the last word.
Hey, I appreciate you, Jason, man.
The dog.
Yeah, I'm sorry about Malcolm here. This is Malcolm.
No, brother, I'm just saying.
All black German Shepherd.
I understand.
I got him for a reason too.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good.
You know. But yeah, man, I appreciate you, man, and you know, like I said, fellas, just stay ready, and just be careful when you are training with people, because like a lot of times, like during these practices, when you're rolling with somebody, like as far as BJJ, like you know, some of these people are trying to hurt you. So just be aware of that, be cognitive of that, and you know, reparations all day, every day.
Thank you very much for calling in. We appreciate that. Yeah, y'all. Tell me why that dog was all up in the man's face like that. What? They doing light skin stuff, y'all. No offense, brother. We love you, but they doing light skin stuff. The dog all up in his face. I'm like, as soon as I saw them, I'm like, oh, hey, hold on now. As soon as I saw the dog jump up on him, I'm like, okay, here we go. We about to get into some light skin stuff. Here we go. I'm going to try to hang with him, but as soon as I saw the dog jump up, I'm like, oh, it's about to jump off. Hey, there it is. There's Fido doing it. Oh, Fido, you're so playful. I'm like, all right, brother. All right, kibbles and bits. Kibbles and bits in this son of a gun. All right, let me see if I can get TW up here. I'm trying to get TW up here. All right, TW, what's on your mind?
Hello, thanks for taking my call. I had two questions, really. One, with what you were talking about tonight, one of the things I guess I've come into learning lately is that BlackRock, Vanguard, I think State Street are making plays to really buy up a lot of residential homes to the point that I think the article said by year 2030, a lot of homes, at least 50 to 60%, will be owned by them to move us more to, as a nation, to a rental state. And with our current administration and both parties really knowing that this is at hand, what can really be done to slow the roll on that, if you will? Because I know, especially through listening to you, that home ownership isn't necessarily the pathway to wealth, but really debt if it's not leveraged correctly. But to have corporate entities buying up homes like this to price people out purposely, what can really be done with that, especially when it comes to our people?
Okay, well, definitely, like I say, I mean, if you had an administration that was dealing with that, because that's one of the things Joe Biden didn't say a word about it. You know, you're talking about housing and whatnot. Okay, you've been in office for 4 years. What you going to do about it? After World War II, the federal government was active in that, which is why you have a middle class, because the federal government was involved not just in financing the housing, but in facilitating the home building. Now you've privatized it, and they're deliberately manipulating the market to make it as high as it possibly can be. There are reports like 40% of homes that have been flipped are with private equity or investors. That's no good because they don't build communities. You know, having an apartment is one thing, but you know, how you're going to raise a family like that. So that's not really facilitating that kind of community development building. All right, things get more complicated when you talk about single family homes. In most of your major cities, for example, if you want to live downtown, there's not houses downtown. I don't care where you are. Downtown Dallas, downtown Houston. You're going to be in a condo, an apartment. You're not going to be in a single family home. That's going to be outside the city somewhere. It is what it is. That's what it's going to be. So that's where the real trouble comes in. So most of that prime real estate that would put you in the city, that's going to be owned by private equity, corporations, commercial entities. That's what that's going to be. And it will never change. Even in the situations where you can get a condominium, you're going to pay a tremendous premium for it. God help you in Florida right now. It's going to hell down there with gasoline draws on. But so when you talk about getting a house or a single family home, remember that's going to be a restricted market. It really is. Because like I say, most people want to live near the city, but in reality, you don't have houses in the city. So housing stock is actually controlled, or should I say minimized in that way. You really would need to have government, intervention for that kind of thing if you want to see that kind of stuff come down quickly. Other than that, you would have to depend on the private market to do what they did in 2006, 2007 and overbuild. But even then, to be totally honest, that only lasted for a few years, and then next thing you know, it's back to the races again. And most places didn't have that issue. Denver, Colorado didn't have that issue. Dallas, Texas didn't have that issue. So you had some places that got walloped, like Florida, LA, Vegas, Phoenix, but then other places that didn't even know this had happened. That's not helpful. So the truth of the matter is, to deal with something that wide ranging, well, right now, I think the nation is down like 4 or 5 million homes. That's a lot. And to fix something like that in a reasonable amount of time, you're going to need the government to step. Remember, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac actually do most of the mortgages in this country to begin with. So that's really what you would need. That's really what you would need if you really want to see that change. Other than that, you're at the behest of the private sector, which that can work too. But you can't leave it up to Lennar and Horton and the corporate entities that build the houses. Because we got developments, what you're talking about right now, in places like Georgia and Florida and the Carolinas, you've got subdivisions that are being built to rent. Single family homes, but they're being built for the purposes of being rented out. Which is exactly what you're talking about. Eventually, I do believe the bottom's going to fall out of that one. Especially with interest rates being where they are. These guys think they're hedging themselves, which will work if they can fill up the subdivision. If they can't, they're going to lose. But that's the only other option you would have. Now, there's a lot of development going on, and there's a lot of building going on. The problem is they keep pulling the plug every time you get close to capacity. That's the problem. So they're deliberately doing that. Like in some cases, you've probably seen it, depending on where you live. What city you live in?
I'm in Virginia Beach.
Okay. Military place, some building going on out there in that regard. So in a lot of these places, what they do is, you've probably seen where they're building subdivisions and then they stop. Well, guess what? That's them stopping to say, okay, yeah, we think we've hit the limit of what we can sell, so we're just going to stop here. And we'll take up again when demand catches up. Mm-hmm. So they turn the spigot on just enough to keep the prices where they are. And you've seen this in the last 4 years. It's gone from $200,000 a square for a home to over $400,000. Mm-hmm. So everything you're talking about is real. It's true. It's absolutely true. The reason why you're upset about this and why it's a particular problem for you as opposed to the elder generation is because the houses you're paying for now are more expensive than they've ever been. They're also nicer than they've ever been, but they're more expensive than they've ever been. Go to your grandfolks' house and then go take a look at the one you're expected to buy. Take a look at theirs, then go take a look at the one that you're looking at. You really can't compare them. That was the rich side of town or the good side of town or whatever you want to call it when your grandparents were coming up. That's where you don't have any choice now. You don't have any choice. The bad side of town, you can't really get nothing. And even if you could, do you want to be there? So, yes, you're absolutely correct. They are trying to maneuver everybody into you will rent and you will like it. That is exactly what they're trying to do. They're pressing the advantage. And your politicians, for the most part, are not doing nearly as much as they should. What needs to happen is 3 things. Number 1, federal government comes in and take care of the home building, or at least to direct in that area like they did after World War II. That's the first thing. Number 2, government tells investors that you cannot buy more than 10% of the single family home stock. You're not going to be doing schools. You're not going to be building families. We need this reserved for the people who are going to build these communities. And that's going to be individual families, not corporations. If you wish to be an investor, you need to be where investors belong. Investors belong building high rises, apartment complexes, condominiums. That's where you need to be. You need to take your asses downtown, start a real estate investment trust. Y'all get down there and you do that. That's what you need to be doing. That's where investors are supposed to be. Investors are not supposed to be grabbing a house here and a house there because you don't really build the community. If you want to do that right there, you need to get together with 10 of them and y'all go build an apartment complex or a multifamily dwelling or a high rise. That's where you belong. Over there. And then you can play with the damn rents all you want. Actually, we can't let you do that either, 5% a year. But in any case, at least that's where they belong. And then last but not least, as individuals, you have to be very cognizant of how you're doing your cities. Have your finances together if you need to be able to build a house from the ground up. Because now houses have gotten so damn expensive now, it's actually more feasible in a lot of areas to do that instead. So living a lifestyle or getting yourself in position to be able to handle that if it comes to it, which in a lot of cases it will. And be aware if you're living in an area that might be bad for weather necessarily if you want to build something. But that'll be the third thing, is to make sure if all else fails, to make sure that you're still able to do that. I did not say it's easy. I did not say it's fair. This is where we at. But no, it's not a figment of your imagination. This is real. And it would be great if government policy would do something about it. But dude, Home Depot and Lowe's and all your home builders, they got all them folks in their back pocket. Hell, your current president doesn't even know where the house is anymore. You expecting him to do the bailout for you? It's just, dude, you ask him how much a house is today, he's liable to tell you $30,000. It's like, oh, Joe, I mean, you missing a couple zeros, ain't you? So, brother, it's just, I don't know what to tell you in that regard. So it's just, those are your options. Now, yes, it is more high profile, believe it or not. There actually are some bills out there, including in Congress. There actually are, but it's going to take time for that to get rolling. You got big money interests who want things. Hell, the current president doesn't know where the house is, and the last president was a real estate developer. And looked like he's skating his way back to the White House. So if you're expecting help from him, just, bruh. It is. We're stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. So get as much as you can done for yourself where you are. You know, that's what I'm saying. You get your finances together to the degree that you can. If you are, I'm not a big fan of taking on tons of debt. I'm not a big fan of that at all. But in some cases, I'm not really sure. Just don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't get yourself stuck on the idea of having a house, because to be totally honest with you, houses are not the assets that they once were, because you're not getting the rate of return you used to get. So back when buying a house was $90,000, well, yeah, it was easy to get that return on it. When the house is $400,000, it's much harder to get it, especially when you know the housing market is inflated. You got ways to go down. So it's harder to do that. I'm telling y'all right now, I mean, you'll get a much better rate of return in, hell, right now, bonds or something like that, than in most houses in that regard, unless you're going to sit on them for an extended period of time. And even then, you're still stuck into this thing for 30 years. So in reality, it's no longer the great investment it was that it used to be. It can be, but only under some limited circumstances. For most people, it's only an asset, but only if you're willing to leverage it. But remember, you can't do that right now. Because if you sold your house today, where are you going? The market's screwed up. So you can sell your house, okay, but everything else on the market, I got a bunch of money here. Yeah, everything else in the market costs as much as yours, but you just got paid. Or, trying to draw equity out of it. You're just kickstarting your mortgage all over again. So, like I say, it's not the easy thing it once was. It's not as easy as it once was. And I know a lot of you want that, and I understand that, but I'm just telling you, especially if you live in places like Miami, forget about it. LA, forget about it. New York, forget about it. Hell, New Jersey, forget about it. DC, same thing. Even if you're out in Arlington or Alexandria, forget about it. Forget about it. It's like folks in Fairfax are used to somebody saying forget about it, but Alexandria, Arlington, Tyson's Corner, forget about it. This is where you're at now. I don't like it, but I hope that you and your generation will actually look at what the hell's in front of you, and that everything, including your economics and your politics, reflect your reality and not your parents' reality. Because a lot of y'all sit up here and try to honor your parents, and you vote, you don't realize that by honoring them, you're voting for their circumstances, not for yours. They got theirs. They had their job at the plant. They had a dollar that was worth 10 times what this one is now. They had cars that cost $5,000 new and a house that was $20,000 new. They had that. You don't. And if you vote with their politics, you're protecting their lives, not your current circumstances. So I hope you'll keep that in mind, because that's the change that really needs to happen. Them old niggas looking out for themselves. You younger folks better start doing the same.
My last question. I know that you said it starts with economics. Why do you think banks like One United or whatever out there aren't pushed in our community to be more of a national, like we shouldn't have to worry about being denied at Wells Fargo if we have our bank? What would it take for us to really galvanize economically behind an institution or a series of institutions so we can have more to do businesses and to do the mortgage and whatever, money needs we might be, even buying some politicians? What would it take?
Well, look, I might step on some toes, especially since Black Empowerment won, but I have to be brutally honest. A lot of our Black so-called financial institutions are run by incompetent people. I just have to say it for what it is. They're not the best and brightest, and they're not the most competent. What generally happens in the world of banking and finance is your best and brightest go to work for the white banks. They're Chase and JP Morgan and the rest of them. So your local Black banks are run by whoever in the family guide or whatever the case may be. Customer service is trash. The offerings are practically non-existent. And in many cases, giving them time has not helped. So you don't really have your best and brightest in that regard. The problem with a lot of your Black banks and credit unions and stuff, the problem starts at the top. The problem actually starts at the top with them. They are essentially non-competitive. Therein lies the problem. They are smaller banks that run themselves like small banks. And by small bank, I mean like the nigga behind the bar at your local nightclub. So there's where the issue comes in with them. If they would run their banks like an actual bank, you're in the 21st century. Direct deposits, wire transfers, dealing with payment processors, having Zelle. That all needs to be a given. That's not optional today. That's supposed to be a given today, man. Interconnectivity with, your brokerage account, that's supposed to be a given. Yeah, having a mobile app, that is supposed to be a given in the 21st century. You ain't supposed to have a bank if you don't have that. Now, we can do many things, but we can't whip their asses and make them do it. So they have to take that seriously. So what I'm saying is that when you are, think of it like being a startup business. Is a startup business non-responsive to its customers, or are they ultra sensitive and responsive to their customers? Because they don't have anything to lose, and they can't afford to lose anything. So they got to jump in there and be responsive. These other folks here, like I said, they're not, the urgency's not there and the responsiveness is not there. So they need to start getting themselves together in that regard. And when they do, then it becomes a lot more attractive. It becomes a lot more attractive when they have that. I'm going to say something else that would be very unpopular with some people. I'm not really up for hearing the excuses. I've been hearing these excuses since I was a child. That's going on half a century now. At what point do y'all start taking this seriously and saying, you know what, we're here to compete against the community banks and we're here to set up a fully fleshed out, fully featured, fully capable black business here? At what point do you have that? If you have a Chase account, a City account, hell, a local community bank account, you already see what it's supposed to be. Why is it you ain't doing that? You should at least be. It's not even something you have to figure out. Take a look at what they doing and just, you should be doing copy the same thing. There shouldn't be an issue there. But what I will say is that if you ever have the pleasure or situation of speaking to some of them folks who run them things one-on-one, you start to see why it's run the way it is. So that is something that must be addressed. You know, after Trayvon Martin and stuff, you know, with Killer Mike and them, you had black folks showing at the black banks and whatnot. And what I'm saying is in many cases, they're not ready. There's a bunch of bull jiving that goes on in between, and they're not ready. They're not ready. The folks running it are not ready to be financial specialists. They're not ready to be movers of wealth. They're not ready. I hope that'll eventually change at some point. But by and large, in the 21st century financial framework, they're not on their business. And your HBCUs and your business schools should be talking to them about that, but they're not doing that. The HBCUs are trying to get money from the government, but they're not trying to run an enterprise. Kamala Harris is talking about giving money to the community banks. This is what I'm saying. Damn that. What we're going to get to the black ones? On account of the fact that they need to get their whole damn thing together. The whole damn thing. So, I don't know. I can't think of the last time I went to a black bank and there was someone there who wanted to be the next JP Morgan. That's what happened to Nations Bank, and I think they eventually took in Bank of America, and now that is. Documentary on PBS Frontline. Everybody should go there. I want to say that's what happened with Nations Bank, and then they took Bank of America. I want to say they took Bank of America. And he said that was their whole goal, was that they were from like the South, Delaware, whatever. Not the South, but they were operating, I want to say, south of Delaware. And he said that that's what we were looking at, was that everybody was talking about the big banks. Whenever they thought about the big banks, they thought about New York. And we wanted to show them that the big banking institutions didn't have to be out of New York. So Dallas and Atlanta and whatnot with Nations. And yeah, they showed them all right. Okay, in black society, where's that guy? At your black banks, where's that guy? Where's that woman? If the bank doesn't have vision, no wonder we ain't even got an app. I'm just saying. But if you're good to deal with and you're doing right by us and stuff like that, and even with some nonsense, because you deal with some things with these other banks, what you're not dealing with is wondering where the hell your money is. Or why the brokerage account is not lining up with it and we're still waiting for it to be approved. That's not happening with these other places. So if they get serious about it, brother, they're going to have plenty of black business. They got to show they're serious first. Like, seriously. High yield savings, things like that. That's what they need to be doing. That's what the white banks are doing. Why are they not doing it? Folks are bull jiving. If they get serious about it, it'll change.
Do you think it would be better if it was a credit union or a bank, or it really doesn't matter? Because if it was a matter of a credit union, you could really go towards FBA, really black owned, like go after it.
Still has to be funded.
Okay.
It's not like, okay, let's start a credit union. This will alleviate us from having to run this competently or fund it properly. No. That doesn't happen either. That doesn't happen either. So I don't care whether it's a bank or a credit union. If you don't run it properly or if you don't make it competitive, it's you're not going anywhere. So it's not a matter of bank or credit union. It is competently run or not competently run. Attractive offers are not attractive. And I'm not expecting them to be JP Morgan, but they should want to be. Dealing with a black bank should not be a damn downgrade. You want to be told, okay, well, y'all are just a Negro bank. Okay, well, don't run it like that. If that's not what you don't want to be told that, well, damn it, don't run it that way. You pick up the phone and you call them there and damn me, thank you for calling First Black Bank. What you want, nigga? Okay, well, Bushika answered the damn phone. What is this? What is this? I'm paying for this? I'm just saying, man. It's like you call the damn bank and they frying fish. You got a debit that didn't go through and they frying chicken back here. And it's like, okay, well, no wonder. Y'all just need to close the bank, start churches, and be done with it. But this isn't a bank, man. I got a bank. I got 2 or 3 banks. And it ain't like this. That's the problem. I got 2 or 3 banks and it's not like this. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, in the chat room, changing baby diapers. This, the nigga that she fighting with done at the bank. Oh, what is this? Come on, man. You talking about getting a loan? They talking about loaning you $50,000. You talking about getting a mortgage? They talking about loaning you $50,000. It's like, okay. Well, I feel like I got to go back to Chase now. I'm doing y'all a favor leaving. I'm just saying, in the world of finance, if you're starting a bank, you should have more acumen than that, man. You're supposed to have that. And what I'm saying, they don't know how to handle assets under management. All kinds of things going on there. So that's what would need to change. If it does, we'll see a difference. As it is right now, yeah, we got black financial institutions. We're just in the slow lane. And it's not that they have not heard us. So I'm glad you want them to run competently. Maybe you need to go sit in their damn lobby and threaten them or something and get them to want to run competently. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta should be, we should have 2 or 3 skyscrapers in downtown Atlanta that are black enterprises. We should, and this is what the Black Channel is for, so I can go ahead and talk about this. I mean, in Atlanta, we have a number of black real estate developers in Atlanta. I'm talking about multimillionaire in Atlanta. I'm talking about with hundreds of millions of dollars of assets under management in Atlanta. So all I'm asking y'all is, okay, what are they doing? You don't want to know what they're doing. I'll tell you. What they're doing is styling and profiling. What they're doing is looking for some white folk to deal with. They're not really trying to start an institution. They want to show up in their big cars and put on their suits, and that's it. Like that black lawyer down there in Florida who sued the funeral home place in Mississippi. They're making the damn movie with Jamie Foxx or whatever. It may already be out. I'm like, okay, this dude dealing with tens of millions of dollars. Got a swimming pool shaped in the initial of his name. Ain't a bank nowhere. When white folk, Asians and stuff, they get some money, they start building something here, him an institution, hey, let's gather over here. I mean, Chris Rock said the niggas do it and go buy a car. They just want to make sure that they got plenty of money so they can go chase hoes and slam Cadillac doors. And so that's why I'm hoping that I started the Black Channel so that hopefully there'll be those of you who will see a change in that. Some of you go get your Series 7s or your Series 9s or whatever, and, start to make a change of that, because the folks who went before you, they're not trying to do that. Dudes in Atlanta, I'm putting this on the men in Atlanta, by the way. I'm not looking at the females in Atlanta. I'm putting this on the men in Atlanta. The ones who ain't wearing G-strings. I'm putting this on y'all. Every time we turn around, you want to sit up here and go buy some $150,000, $200,000 car. Christmas time is Bentleys all over the damn mall at Lenox. What the hell we own at Lenox, by the way? Right across the street from Lenox Mall. You had the Ritz-Carlton. They sold it. Now it's the Whitley. Excuse me. It was worth selling to somebody. So, bro, we got money in Atlanta. We got infrastructure in Atlanta. Yes, that should be the black banking hub of America. Absolutely it should be. But it's not glamorous. And Negroes suffering from ego starvation, they want something glamorous because they want their, quote, greatness to be acknowledged. And that is a form of currency to them. That actually has monetary value to them. So if it's going to happen, bro, it's going to take a generation here that's got a whole different mindset and is not on that narcissistic bull jive. That's what's going to happen. Point blank, period. Maybe it'll be you. I'll let you have the last word.
Just appreciate you. And been listening to you for the past 2 years on both of your channels. You have really poured a lot into my life. I just appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you very much for tuning in here tonight. And like I say, man, it's something there. Definitely, it's the environment and everything else, man. It's supposed to be there. The environment and everything else, that's supposed to be there, man. Especially in Atlanta. Y'all know how they do. Y'all know how niggas do in Atlanta. Come on now. Downtown, Peachtree, Perimeter, Lenox Mall, Buckhead. Y'all know how niggas do down there, man. They flashy. The money is moving. They ain't got no problem doing that New Year's night in Atlanta. Y'all know how it goes downtown? I've been there, remember? Y'all know how it goes downtown in Atlanta. Come on now. Niggas show you how much money they got. Did you say it, nigga? Did you say it, nigga? I sure did.
Deal with it, nigga.
Come on now. We're just talking about where your priorities. I'm just talking about where the priorities at. So hell yeah, Atlanta should be the banking hub of black people, and Chicago should be the second one. This is a matter of vision. Folks want to sit up here and style and profile and be seen and have their name on a plaque and have folk recognize them. The folks who really run things, you can't see them. And so it's like, okay, if I got a choice between making some money and being seen and being the king of all and not being seen, let me make a little bit. I ain't gonna do this. They ain't gonna recognize it. Everybody wants to have a damn statue. Come on now. You have a statue of the former mayor down there, right in the middle of downtown. You got a statue of him, but right there in front of buildings where we don't own nothing. His statue is sitting right down there in the middle, right there in front of the Westin, right there downtown. Okay, but every multi-billion-dollar development around him, you don't own nothing, but got a statue. Guess what? Washington, D.C., same thing. They got a statue of Marion Barry. It's one of the few things that I've ever taken a picture of myself in front of. I'm proud of Marion Barry. But by the way, then you take a look around where that statue is. Oh boy. We got a statue of Marion Barry, but what do we own? Folks yelling and screaming for years at the Philadelphia Library. You got a statue of Sylvester Stallone. It's Rocky Balboa. Rocky Balboa my ass. That's Sylvester Stallone. And is he even from Philadelphia? Meanwhile, where'd Joe Frazier at? Well, they finally made a statue of him in the last few years. Okay, and then look around that statue. What do we own? So yeah, that's what I'm about. That's what we're about. We've been doing this. Tell me where this conversation happens anywhere else. We sit here and say, hey, this is what needs to be done. You see, if you and me are sitting in front of Kamala Harris, we ain't letting her get away with that okay community bank stuff. No. We got to bring home the bacon because we're trying to get that done now. You the chick, you got folk with the hands on the lever. Let's get this popping right here. Not next week, not next month, right now. This is a conversation that does not happen in the old black media because it's not convenient for it to happen, because a strong black proletariat of individuals carrying wealth who are not controlled by a central white bank or a central white power structure, that's not good for them. They need, these folk on the screen there, they need some white folks to be running things so that they can hold on to their little positions. Because if you and I had the ability here, these guys couldn't breathe because they couldn't be allowed to stick around because they didn't have any merits. That's the difference. They don't have any merits. So just understand, there's a lot of folks out there who have a vested interest in making sure that we don't get ourselves together and that we don't start pulling these levers of power on our own, because once you and me start making the calls about who gets it and who doesn't, there's a whole bunch of Negroes sitting on the front line right now today who are going to be the first ones getting moved off the block, and they know it. So they're like, hey, we want things to get better, but we need some white folk to run it because I'm their pet Negro and they're going to look out for me. If you dudes take over, y'all ain't going to look out for me. You damn right. On account of the fact you ain't got no wins. You don't know how to get it for yourself, and you damn sure don't know how to tell anybody else how to get it. Every time Roland Martin turns around, he's telling you about how he begging some white folk for some more money. We need y'all to, y'all Democrats need to pay me money. That's his economic agenda for black folk. Pay him more money. Can't talk to you about a damn thing about what you're going to do for you. And then you all come to me, and I can give you chapter, title, and verse on how to do it. But, hey, if you really want to get that kicked off properly here, that's why we have to have an apparatus to get the word out. We put together our own media projects. We put together our own thing. That's what we do. 8 a.m., I'm going deeper into it than I ever have, as you all have seen. I want to see your names on that. We got 5 days left on this, by the way. Your local black bank is not making it do what it do. Hey, I'm not making that an excuse for me. I'm doing it. So, by the way, if you want to know where you can really get something done, join us, because we're the only ones doing it. We're the only ones doing it. The rest of these folk are looking out for themselves. We're the only ones looking out for the people. Don't look for these other folks to come to your rescue or say anything. They don't even have a forum anymore. Roland Martin doesn't even take questions, remember? I got to remind you all of that. Roland Martin doesn't even take questions, remember? Shout out in the chat room, Ms. Peters. I appreciate that. For all my real soldiers out there, let me just go ahead and say that. For all my real soldiers out there, because let's understand something. People, it's not the masses that got us where we are. Let's just say it like it is. The masses didn't get up and make this happen. The masses haven't been down here in the trenches dodging the bullets for the last 15, 20 years. The masses haven't been doing that. It's just been you and me and us and we. That's it. Everybody else taking the holidays off and then coming back and telling you about white supremacy and this, that, and the other, and styling and profiling. It's not us, man. It's not us. We're the real ones. So for my real folk out here, for the real soldiers who are about that life, salute always. That's what it's always been. We're coming down the home stretch. You know I got it coming. They're going to be real mad when we get done with this, but yes, we're going to be on code, on agenda. The agenda is economics. The agenda is entrepreneurship. The agenda is putting our thing together, point blank, period, into discussion. If you want to be a part of that, and I know you do, you got only 5 days left, so some of the folks pulling up the rear, you're going into the last weekend here, so instead of going to trick it off at the club up there, I know some of y'all have been getting your sexy red money together. Some of you have been getting your sexy red money together here, but I need to prick your conscience here for just a moment here. So wait a minute now, you're going to feel guilty. Why don't we do something that really matters here? So before you go throw it all at sexy red, just remember we got some real stuff going on over here. We got some real stuff happening out here. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program. On PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo, my man Jean. Thank you very much for your support, brother. We appreciate that. Brenda Starr, as always, thank you very much, sister here. Najee. And everybody else here who has contributed to support tonight's program, Mr. Collington, and everyone else who has contributed to support tonight's program. And if you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent Black thought. We do this every weekend and every holiday. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. If you haven't been to our website, Black Channel Films, to go check out our documentary work, go there now, blackchannelfilms.com to see 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War. And to be a part of the new one, 8 a.m. This is going to be what y'all are going to be talking about here. We are in the last 5 days of our crowdfunding. We still have time for folks to show up and show out. I want to see you be a part of this. We're going into our last weekend of this. You need to be there. When your kids ask you, where were you in 2024 and what were you doing, you're going to be able to show them, not just talk about it. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.